Naruto. Starting as a civilian ninja, this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51. Another year. The reason why Muen wanted to promote cooperation with the Kurama clan was, on the one hand, that he hoped to help Kurama Huan through research. After all, she was a little girl he had been with for so long, and he didn't want to see her die because of blood. On the other hand, the Kurama clan's bloodline was indeed very special, a kind of power that could turn a false illusion into reality, which might involve the secret of the mutual transformation of Yindun and Yangdun, which was very attractive to Muen, and was something that Muen had to figure out. Generally, when ninjas conduct ninjutsu research or bloodline research, they would start from the body and then infer the changes in chakra. Therefore, the corpses of ninjas, especially the corpses of bloodline ninjas, are very valuable research materials. Muen still has 2 corpses of bloodline jonins in his hands, which are extremely important resources for some people. However, chakra is produced by the combination of physical strength and spiritual strength, so simply studying the body cannot completely and accurately infer all the changes in chakra. Therefore, some ninjas go astray and conduct live experiments in pursuit of truth and power. This is also a taboo area for research ninjas and is not tolerated by the world. Later, Orochimaru betrayed Konoha because of his research and touched the taboo. When Tsunade and Katoda knew that Muen had a talent for research, they also strictly warned Muen not to involve the restricted area of live experiments. Of course, this is also the reason why Kurama Huan's father would rather cooperate with the child Muen than hand Kurama Huan over to other research ninjas who may be more reliable. At least, there is a friendship between Muen and Kurama Huan. For the sake of research, the possibility of disregarding Kurama Huan's life is much smaller. The conjecture proposed by Muen, once the research is successful, can indeed make up for the defects of the Kurama clan's bloodline. Therefore, once the other elders of the Kurama clan know about it, some people may cooperate with some seemingly more reliable ninjas at all costs for the so-called family interests. At that time, Kurama Huan may face serious danger at any time. This is why the Kurama clan leader asked for confidentiality. This is a choice as a father. Of course, the Kurama clan leader made a very correct choice. Muen's research method is different from that of other researchers. Muen's research skipped physical energy and spiritual energy and went directly to the study of chakra. This was mainly due to his increasingly better chakra sensing and manipulation ability, as well as the effect of the ninjutsu spiritual mist. Therefore, compared with researchers such as Orochimaru, Muen's research has a higher starting point and is closer to the essence. In the following days, Muen's life became busier and busier. Busy with the bone strengthening and bodybuilding technique exercise, which can never be stopped. Muen clearly felt that his physical foundation was getting better and better. Busy doing various tasks, the team members became more and more talented in the tasks, and the team members' abilities were getting stronger and stronger. Also busy doing some research with Kurama Huan. Of course, these studies are more on the battlefield rather than in the laboratory. Muen used the spiritual mist to observe the changes in chakra in Kurama Huan and the enemy's body at the same time, watching the entire illusion from fake to real, and gained a lot. The research on ninjutsu to strengthen the body in the illusion is also step by step towards success. In this way, time passed day by day. On this day, Muen and Minato were invited to the principal's office of Konoha Ninja School. 2 young jonin, as outstanding classmates, who will come to give a report at the graduation ceremony tomorrow, to encourage the classmates who are about to become ninjas. That's right, just yesterday, the 3rd Hokage had ordered the promotion of Moon and Minato to jonin, which caused some sensation in a small circle. The one who urged the 2 to give a report at the graduation ceremony was Katodan, who left the front line due to injury 2 years ago, and took up the new position of school principal. The position of school principal is special, and there has never been a very suitable candidate. When it was first established, the 2nd Hokage took the position concurrently, and later the 3rd Hokage took the position concurrently. When Kato Dan, who was wearing the Hokage's half sleeves, had to leave the front line due to injury, he became the best candidate for this position, and he also took on part of the work for the Hokage. You can't refuse. This is a mandatory task agreed by the Hokage. One of you two must complete it. Seeing that the Tikanoha Rising Stars did not respond, Katodan continued. Principal, let Minato do this report. Minato has reasons to do it. Muen was the first to react. He didn't want to do this report, so he quickly put the blame on Minato. Oh, why must Minato do this report? In terms of closeness, Katodan actually preferred to let Muen do this report to show his face. Because Minato's sweetheart is among the graduating students, he needs this opportunity. Muen then walked to Katodan and whispered, Principal, this is related to Minato's lifelong event as a Jonin. I can't snatch it away. Katodan never thought that Muen would actually say such a reason, and for a moment he felt a little bit amused. Of course, as he got in touch with Muen more and more, Katodan also knew that Muen was more lively and cheerful in front of familiar people. Once there were outsiders, he liked to observe silently on the side, and appeared quiet and introverted. Minato on the side didn't expect that Muen would be so outspoken. His face flushed in an instant, and he was speechless. The person who would give the speech at the graduation ceremony was decided almost as a joke, Minato Namikaze. Of course, Minato Namikaze was definitely worthy. Over the past year, Minato Namikaze has been joining various teams to participate in missions like a flying guest, and has been recognized by many ninjas for his ability and character. On the way out of the school, Minato said helplessly, Muen, how can you say that in front of Master Duan? It doesn't matter, and I didn't lie. Muen said carelessly, when are you going to confess your feelings? It's been so long, or do you just like to watch from afar? Muen, if you continue to be so frivolous, I will duel with you. Minato pretended to be angry, and threatened Muen. I won't fight you. The Flying Thunder God technique plus your nerve reaction speed is simply cheating. And why is the bone strengthening and bodybuilding technique more effective on you than on me? It's ridiculous. I'm the creator of this technique. That's right, a month ago, Minato's chakra volume finally reached the standard for performing the Flying Thunder God technique. In Muen's opinion, this is definitely due to his bone strengthening and bodybuilding technique. Please collect, recommend, invest, etc. Thank you all for your book friends. Chapter 52 Team Meeting. After Muen said this, Minato also became a little embarrassed, and the anger that was about to rise also dissipated instantly. After almost a year of practicing the bone strengthening and bodybuilding technique, Muen's physique and physical strength have improved significantly. As early as half a month ago, Muen had already started to practice the sword escape bloodline limit. More importantly, with the improvement of physique and physical strength, Muen's chakra volume has barely reached the minimum standard of a Jonin, which is a completely unexpected surprise for Muen. However, in the practice of bone strengthening and bodybuilding technique, Minato showed a terrifying talent, which made Muen deeply realize the gap between people and understand what God's gift means. If it is said that after Muen practiced the bone strengthening and bodybuilding technique, 1% of the chakra in his body can successfully undergo a nature change and become a yang attribute chakra that can strengthen bones and body, then Minato's conversion rate is at least 3%. In this way, Minato had already practiced the bone strengthening technique to the extreme a month ago, and the amount of chakra also reached the standard for performing the Flying Thunder God technique. According to Minato's own estimation, if it were not for the bone strengthening technique, it would take at least 2 years to use the Flying Thunder God technique. The chakra consumption of the Flying Thunder God technique varies with the moving distance and the number of objects moved. Compared with the huge amount of chakra required to use this ninjutsu, the chakra consumption for short distance movement is not much. That is, the threshold for use is high and the consumption is small over short distances. Okay, Minato. I do have something to do tomorrow, so just do this report with all your might. Seeing that Minato had calmed down, Muen stretched out his hand and said, and what else, did you forget? Seeing that Minato didn't seem to understand, Muen pretended to be angry and said, in the future, when I'm in danger on the battlefield, won't you come to my aid as soon as possible? Hearing this, Minato finally understood what Muen meant and said seriously, "Muen, are you sure you want to do this?" Of course. Muen didn't hesitate at all. Then, Minato didn't say anything more and quickly formed a seal and high-fived Muen. A black technique mark appeared on Muen's palm and then slowly disappeared. The reason why Muen dared to let Minato mark him with the Flying Thunder God technique was, on the one hand, because he had a close relationship with Minato, and Muen believed in Minato's character. On the other hand, for ordinary people, the technique mark really couldn't be removed, but Muen was confident that he could break this routine with his increasingly powerful chakra sensing and control ability. This is indeed the case. Although the mark has disappeared, Muen can still sense the almost non-existent chakra fluctuations on his palm. Of course, the most important thing is that Muen doesn't know how cruel the battlefield will be in the future. Maybe at a critical moment, this mark can really save his life. With his own ability, no matter what the harsh battlefield environment is, he can still survive for a long time and wait for rescue. Okay, Minato, go home and prepare for tomorrow's report. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Goodbye. Muen turned around and waved, saying goodbye to Minato and left. Muen did have something to do, not an excuse. Today is the day for Muen's team to gather. After parting with Minato, Muen went to the training ground, where the team often went without stopping. I saw Hinata Rakizuki and Inuzuka Shida were having their daily competition on the field. Muen walked aside silently to watch, without disturbing them. After a year, the two of them have become a little taller and more stable. The air between their palms and claws burst into sound, and their skills have also improved greatly. At this time, the two also noticed Muen's arrival and both stopped. "Hey, two Chunin, you are both quite skilled." Muen joked in advance as he looked at the two people coming over. While Muen and Minato were promoted to Jonin, the other three members of Muen's team were also promoted to Chunin because of their excellent mission performance over the past year. "Muen, you are already a Jonin, don't tease us." Inuzuka Shida heard Muen's teasing, rushed to Muen in one step, and clamped Muen's neck under his armpit. Hinata Rakizuki also secretly rubbed Muen's head twice, until the original hairstyle could not be seen at all. As they became more and more familiar with each other, Inuzuka Shida and Hinata Rakizuki also learned that Muen was a very easygoing person in daily life, and the little jokes in life gradually became more and more. After a while, the fight gradually subsided. Muen looked at Hinata Kyoyu, who was standing aside with a serious face, and said strangely, "Kyoyu, you are not honest either. Did you touch my hair just now?" "No, Captain, you must have seen it wrong," Hinata Kyoyu said without blinking. "Kyoyu, you and Shishin have learned bad things together," Muen said in a tone of regret. "You were not like this before, and you would not lie." Hey, Muen, what do you mean by learning bad things with me? Kyoyu is a bad boy. He just hid it very well in the past. He has only recently begun to show his true colors. We have all been deceived by him before. Inuzuka Shida expressed dissatisfaction on the side. Also, Muen, didn't Huan always stay with you before? Why haven't I seen you two together recently? Did you have a quarrel? Inuzuka Shida saw that Hinata Kyoyu wanted to refute, so he quickly changed the subject and asked Muen. Huan has something to do recently and will be here soon. Before Muen finished speaking, he found that Kurama Huan was already running towards him not far away. Seeing that he had no intention of slowing down, Muen and Hinata Rakizuki quickly jumped away, leaving Inuzuka Shida standing there in a daze. Kurama Huan attacked Inuzuka Shida with a flying kick. Shida also reacted and crossed his hands to block, while shouting, "Muen, it must be you. You actually used illusion to sneak attack me." Then, the two fought in one place. Kurama Huan had some advantages, and Inuzuka Shida had just fought with Hinata Rakizuki and his physical strength had decreased, so Kurama Huan had some advantages at the beginning. There was no time to be surprised at the explosive growth of Kurama Huan's physical strength. Inuzuka Shida immediately adjusted his mentality and began to deal with the opponent in front of him with all his strength. With the cheers of Prince and Woof Woof, Inuzuka Shida slowly took control of the situation. At this time, Kurama Huan cleverly jumped out of the battle circle and complained, "Moon, I still can't beat Shida." Kurama Huan still had short hair and oil paint covering her face, but her figure was taller. In contrast to the feeling of a weak girl in the past, she is now full of heroic spirit. Please collect, recommend, and invest. Thank you all book friends. Chapter 53, Body Refining in Dreams. It's already very good, and it's only been less than half a month. Muen was very satisfied. In the nearly 1-year research, although they experienced many difficulties and repeated failures, the two finally succeeded in researching the ninjutsu that Muen had guessed. This ninjutsu is the dream body refining technique, using illusions to enter dreams, refine the body in dreams, and use the power of blood to reflect the results of the body refining in dreams to reality. In the real world, Kurama Huan, who was physically weak and could not refine the body at all, bypassed the influence of talent in the form of illusions. The new ninjutsu and the blood power of the Kurama clan realized the cycle from body to spirit, and then from spirit to body. Now, Kurama Huan has been practicing this ninjutsu for less than half a month, and he has already undergone a complete transformation. Perhaps because of the improvement of his physical condition, even his personality has become a completely different person from half a month ago. Of course, after the successful research of the dream body refining technique, Muen also tried to practice it, but because he did not have the blood power of the Kurama clan, the effect was minimal when reflecting the reality in the last step. This can be regarded as a secret technique specially developed for the Kurama clan's blood awakeners. Of course, in Muen's opinion, his gains are even greater than those of the Kurama clan. Spiritualization technique originally belongs to the power of Yindun, and with the study of Kurama's bloodline, Muen has a deeper understanding of Yindun, and even has some understanding of Yin-Yang conversion. Of course, just like the bone strengthening technique obtained from studying the corpse vein, through the study of the Kurama clan's bloodline power, Muen has also mastered a ninjutsu spirit enrichment technique to exercise and enhance spiritual power. Not to mention other ninjutsu abilities that have been improved and enhanced by combining the inspiration that burst out from the research. And at least in the field of illusion, Muen can now be said to be a real expert. Who are you? You can't be Huan. At this time, the most incredible person is Inuzuka Shida, who stared at Kurama Huan in great surprise. You know, half a month ago, Kurama Huan was still in a state that seemed to be blown down by a gust of wind. But now he can already fight back and forth with Inuzuka Shida in physical skills, which is simply beyond cognition. Hinata Rakizuki was also standing aside with a surprised look on his face. When Kurama Kian rushed over just now, he just felt that the woman in front of him looked very familiar, and he didn't expect it to be Kurama Kian. They were almost two different people. I'm not Kurama Kian. Then who am I? Kurama Kian said angrily. You can't even recognize me. It really makes me sad. Then, he scolded Inuzuka Shida and Hinata Rakizuki. Inuzuka Shida still didn't want to believe that the girl in front of him was Kurama Kian. He turned to Muen for help and said, Muen, tell me that all this is an illusion. Am I still in your illusion and haven't woken up yet? Yes, you are still in an illusion. Muen said seriously. At this time, Hinata Rakizuki kicked Inuzuka Shida in the ass. With a scream, Inuzuka Shida jumped up 3 feet high and then glared at Hinata Rakizuki. Boy, what do you want to do? Do you want to duel with me? I'm just letting you experience whether you are still in the illusion. Hinata Rakizuki curled his lips and said lightly. Okay, Huan just successfully practiced a family secret technique. Muen ended the topic and said, I came here today to ask for everyone's opinions. Seeing that the three of them had quieted down, Muen continued, you have all been promoted to Chunin and have the ability to lead the team alone. Do you have any idea of being the captain and leading the team alone? What are you talking about, captain? Inuzuka Shida was about to get angry immediately. You don't want us anymore, do you? I don't know about the two of them, but I must follow you. I don't want to be a captain. Me too, captain. Hinata Rakizuki quickly agreed. Muen, you won't abandon us, right? Kurama Huan stared at Muen with his eyes sparkling and said in a very aggrieved tone. Okay, this is a Hokage asking for everyone's opinions. Muen replied, since no one wants to leave, I will reply truthfully. Afterwards, the four chatted for a while. basically marveling at the amazing secret techniques of the Kurama clan, and lamenting that Kurama Huan's physical skills improved too quickly. After parting with his teammates, Nguyen prepared to go to the Hokage building to report the team member's decision to the third Hokage. Walking on the streets of Konoha, he suddenly saw a silver-haired figure wearing a Hokage half-sleeve on his left arm, holding a little boy in his right hand. "Hello, Lord Tsukumo." Nguyen hurriedly stepped forward to greet him. "Oh, it's Nguyen." Hatake Tsukumo glanced at the child next to him and introduced, "This is my child, Hatake Kakashi." "Kakashi, call Nguyen brother." Hatake Tsukumo said to the little boy. "You are Nguyen, one of the future twin stars of Konoha." The little boy Kakashi looked at Nguyen, and then said proudly, "It seems that you are nothing special. I will surpass you in the future." After that, the little boy broke free from Hatake Tsukumo's hand, and ran away like a fly. Hatake Tsukumo said a little embarrassedly, "Child, don't be surprised if you don't understand. It's nothing, just a child." Nguyen certainly didn't take it seriously, but said in confusion, "If I'm not mistaken, Kakashi has already begun to condense chakra." Nguyen didn't know what to say. This kind of talent is really a monster. "I didn't teach him, he learned it by himself." Hatake Tsukumo also had a bright face when talking about the child. "I plan to let him enter the ninja school next year. Next year he will only be 3 years old." Nguyen sighed in his heart, and said goodbye to Hatake Tsukumo. Looking at Nguyen going away, Hatake Tsukumo sighed in his heart. It seems that it is right to give him the sword escape. He who is most familiar with the sword escape seems to have seen the sword light faintly emerging from Nguyen. After saying goodbye to Hatake Tsukumo, Nguyen did not delay any longer, and went directly to the Hokage's office, to meet the third Hokage. Compared with the third Hokage whom Nguyen saw at the wedding of Katodan and Tsunade a year ago, he was almost visibly older. It can be seen that it is not so easy to be a Hokage, especially for Konoha, which is surrounded by enemies. "Third Hokage, none of us want to leave the team." Nguyen knelt on one knee and bowed his head. "Oh, is that so?" The third Hokage's voice was full of fatigue. "Get up. In this case, I will give your team a task. The content of the task is kept confidential for the time being, and the registration is tentatively set as S level. You should prepare and be ready to set off at any time in the next few days." "Yes." Nguyen agreed hurriedly. Then, he got up and walked out of the Hokage's office. "Please collect, recommend, and invest in my book. Thank you all book friends." Chapter 54. A student. It was midnight, and the family was eating around the table at Kurama Huan's house. Kurama Huan sat upright, without any exaggerated movements, but with her mouth slightly open and her cheeks slightly puffed. The food in front of her disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. The Kurama clan leader Kurama Yunkang, Kurama Huan's mother Kurama Huang, and brother Kurama Kangan, who were eating at the same table, seemed to be used to it. After a while, the food on the table was cleaned up, and most of it went into Kurama Huan's stomach. "Huan, are you full?" Kurama Huan asked in a worried tone. "I'm full, mother." Kurama Huan said respectfully, "Father, I'm going back to my room to rest." "Wait a minute, I have something to ask you in advance." Kurama Yunkang hesitated for a moment, then said, "How deep is Nguyen's understanding of the power of our family's bloodline? Do you know this? And how much do you know about his methods of studying bloodline?" "Father, I just perform ninjutsu according to Nguyen's requirements every day, and talk about my feelings. He doesn't let me participate in his research in depth. As for his research methods, I can't ask him, unless he tells me." Kurama Huan blinked and looked at Kurama Yunkang innocently. Kurama Yunkang heard this, and waved his hand helplessly, saying, okay, I knew you would say that. Go back to your room to rest." "Father, it seems that this Nguyen is very cautious. After nearly a year of living together day and night, he can hide his methods without my sister knowing. He is really not a simple person." Kurama Kangan looked at Kurama Huan's leaving figure, and said with emotion. Kurama Yunkang looked at Kurama Kangan strangely and said, "Do you think your little sister is so stupid that she really didn't notice anything for such a long time? Did my little sister know something, but why didn't she tell us?" Kurama Kangan asked in confusion. Kurama Yunkang looked at his slow-witted son, sighed, and said, girls are extroverts after all, and girls' hearts can't be kept. You mean my little sister? Kurama Kangan also reacted to his father's words, opened his mouth in surprise, and was speechless. After a long time, Kurama Kangan stood up and walked straight out the door. Where are you going? Kurama Yunkang asked hurriedly when he saw this. I'm going out to eat something. You can see that my little sister has eaten all the food by herself, and I'm not full yet. Kurama Kangan's voice came from outside the door. Huan, when Huan is at home in the future, make more meals. Kurama Yunkang turned to his wife Kurama Huang and said, I understand, my clan leader. Kurama Huang then said with some concern, this is already twice as much as before, really? When she was sick all day long before, I was afraid that she would die accidentally. Now her body is good, but she has become a glutton. Which girl is like this? Who will want her in the future? It's really worrying. If you ask me, it's better not to be a ninja. Kurama Huang is just an ordinary person, not a ninja, just simply expressing her concerns as a mother. Okay, what do you know as a woman? Kurama Yunkang scolded. Kurama Huan, who returned to her room, did not delay for a second to perform the dream body training technique, and then fell into a dream. The simultaneous improvement of body and spirit requires a lot of energy. Now is the stage of Kurama Huan's rapid progress, and there is no way to increase her appetite. At this time, Nguyen had finished dinner, and was preparing to do a small experiment. The small courtyard of Nguyen's house was particularly lively today, and a row of cages were filled with various animals. Rabbits, dogs, cows, sheep, etc. were all bought by Nguyen from the market. These were all the subjects of the experiment tonight. Nguyen first made seals with both hands, stretched out his right hand, and a layer of hazy spiritual light emerged from his hand. He pressed his palm on the head of a rabbit. Then he raised his palm upwards, and a rabbit in the shape of a spirit slowly emerged from the rabbit's body with Nguyen's palm. The rabbit that was still alive and kicking just now had fallen to the ground and was silent. When Nguyen put the rabbit in the shape of a spirit into the rabbit's body again, the rabbit came back to life after a while. Then, Nguyen changed the contact position of his palm with the animal and used the same ninjutsu. The result was sometimes successful and sometimes failed. Then Nguyen did the same experiment on different animals and found that it was easiest to extract the spirit from the top of the animal's head. This is a new ninjutsu spirit hand created by Nguyen, combining the blood power of the Kurama clan and the spiritualization technique. Although it can only be used for experiments on animals now, it cannot be used in actual combat. But Nguyen believed that with continuous improvement, this technique would be of great use. The realization of this technique reminded Nguyen of the Shiki seal. Nguyen believed that when he saw the Shiki seal, it would be the time for this ninjutsu to be perfected. Afterwards, Nguyen looked at the animals in the yard and was worried. He was about to go on a mission. It was not possible to keep them, and one person could not eat them all. The next morning, Nguyen went to a barbecue restaurant, discussed something with the boss, and left. This day happened to be the day when Nguyen's classmates graduated from the Konoha Ninja School and became genin. Nguyen told Minato that he had something to do and could not go to make an excellent graduate report for his classmates. It was not a lie. At this time, Nguyen was training a child in the training ground. The little boy was about 6 years old. Under Nguyen's guidance and protection, he walked step by step towards the big tree. That's right, Nguyen was training the little boy in chakra control. Brother Nguyen, why can't I learn ninjutsu? I only practice physical skills, chakra sensing, and chakra control every day. During the training, the little boy asked Nguyen in a puzzled tone. Chakra is the foundation of all ninjutsu. There is no need to rush to learn ninjutsu. Now is the stage of laying the foundation. It is better to walk steadily than to walk fast. Nguyen said seriously, remember the agreement between us. When I come back from the mission, I will check the results of your practice. I understand, Brother Nguyen. The little boy said seriously. This little boy is Kayentang, the son of Hiruna. A month ago, Hiruna found Nguyen, hoping that he could teach Kayentang well. Facing Aunt Hiruna who had taken good care of him since he was a child, Nguyen did not refuse and could not refuse. Fortunately, after a period of contact, Kayantang was not as naughty and annoying as some bear children. Instead, he was obedient and honest and never discounted the training tasks assigned by Muen, which also made Muen feel relieved. In this way, Muen had his first student. Please recommend, collect, invest, etc. Thank you all book friends. Chapter 55 Graduation Party. When Muen and Kayantang said goodbye and rushed to school, Schumann's speech report had just ended. Students from each class began to return to their classrooms one after another. Let's go back to the classroom. After all, we haven't seen each other for 2 years. Muen walked in front of Schumann and said with emotion, "It's okay in school. After graduation, I don't know how many will survive in the end." Just like that, Muen and Schumann walked towards their own classrooms while chatting. "Hey, what are you two doing here?" Just as the two were about to walk to the classroom, a slightly hostile voice appeared in the corridor. Muen and Schumann looked in the direction of the voice and saw that it was the red-haired Uzumaki Kushina who asked them with her hands on her hips. "Oh, it's Kushina-san." Muen didn't take Kushina's hostility seriously and said very naturally, "We are here to invite you to have barbecue tonight. How about it? Do you want to go eat barbecue? Why invite me?" Uzumaki Kushina's hostility was slightly reduced, and she said with a puzzled look, "That's because of Minato." Minato, who was standing by, was startled when he heard his name, fearing that Muen would say something, so he quickly blocked Muen's mouth. Muen struggled for a long time, but he couldn't get away from Minato's hand. Since Minato practiced the bone strengthening technique to the extreme, his strength has become stronger and stronger. "What are you going to do?" Uzumaki Kushina looked at the two people who were fighting, and the accumulated anger was on the verge of breaking out. Uzumaki Kushina's angry voice came, which scared Minato. Muen took the opportunity to break free from the clutches and said with a breath, "Minato said that everyone will be ninjas in the future, and they will be busy carrying out missions in the future. There will be fewer and fewer opportunities to get together. Why don't the classmates get together tonight, and we too will treat them to a barbecue? How about going, Kushina?" Hearing that Muen didn't say anything indecent without restraint, Minato couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, but at the same time, he unconsciously felt a little disappointed. "Is that so?" Uzumaki Kushina said with a little doubt. "Of course it is, otherwise what do you think it is?" Muen said seriously. "Okay, I know, I will definitely go." Just like that, Muen and Minato walked into the classroom together, invited the whole class, and received a thunderous response from the classmates. Muen and Minato did not stay in the classroom for long, and left. On the way out of the school, Minato looked at Muen in confusion and said, "When did we decide to treat everyone to barbecue?" "Haha. Don't worry about these details." Muen laughed and said, "Today's barbecue is on my behalf. I have already arranged it. Don't worry, just go to eat in the evening. Come on, let's go to the barbecue restaurant." Just like that, Muen took Minato to the barbecue restaurant to pick up the barbecue chef and pulled all the cages at home to the barbecue restaurant. It turned out that Muen had discussed with the owner of the barbecue restaurant in the morning to come to eat barbecue in the evening and dispose of the animals used for experiments at home. "See, there's so much meat, it's definitely enough for dinner. You can also invite some friends to come." Muen looked at Minato and said, "That's what you said. Don't regret it when the time comes." Minato seemed to have thought of something and said with a strange look on his face, "Don't worry. When have I ever regretted treating you?" Muen replied heroically. Then Muen said goodbye to Minato. Muen also needed to inform his teammates that he would go out on a mission at any time so that everyone could adjust their status and set off at any time. While informing his teammates, Muen also invited his teammates to have barbecue in the evening. It was midnight, and the classmates began to come to the barbecue restaurant in twos and threes. As the night deepened, more and more people came, and the atmosphere in the store became more and more exciting. The classmates talked and imagined the future together, imagining themselves being invincible and high-spirited on the battlefield, imagining themselves becoming heroes of Konoha with many outstanding achievements, and being admired by thousands of people, and imagining themselves catching up with their beloved other half and being happy. These are not mentioned for the time being. At this time, Muen tightly grasped his wallet and felt a wave of pain in his heart. I saw that Kurama Huan and Qiu Dao Tangdang, who can be said to be a good match, one is dignified and elegant, and the other is a big horse and golden sword, sitting opposite each other, and neither of them gave in to the other on the word eat. The two seemed to be competing to see who ate more, and they didn't communicate with others, just eating. Gradually, the crowd gathered around the two. Everyone had expected Qiu Dao Tangdang to be able to eat, based on their body shape, but Kurama Huan, such a slender girl, could eat so much, which was a breakthrough in everyone's cognition, and instantly got everyone's amazement. If you don't eat it, how can that small stomach hold so much? Finally, when the boss was about to prepare to buy ingredients for the third time, the two finally stopped. At this time, the onlookers also burst into cheers. I haven't eaten so well in a long time. Akimichi Tangdang patted his belly with a satisfied look on his face, then looked at Kurama Kian opposite him and said, "Little girl, good job. You are the first one who can compete with me in eating." Kurama Kian did not reply, but just burped in response. The party of the day ended with Kurama Kian's burp. "Hey, where's Minato? Wasn't he still here just now?" Inozuka Shida came back to his senses from the shock of Kurama Kian's appetite, and found that Minato, who had been with them just now, was gone. Muen looked around, and didn't see Uzumaki Kushina, so he guessed it in his heart. Okay, Minato has something to do, so he's leaving first, let's go too. After that, Muen turned around, and went to the barbecue restaurant owner to settle the bill. It was not easy to save some money, but this time he spent most of it again. "Huan, I never thought you could eat so much. I never noticed it before." On the way home, Inozuka Shida said in amazement, and Hinata Akizuki beside him nodded in agreement. At this time, Kurama Huan seemed to have turned into the shy girl she used to be. She glanced at Muen secretly and whispered, No, I can't eat so much normally." Okay, don't be so curious. This should be related to her family's secret technique. Muen had already thought of the reason why Kurama Huan's appetite increased so much, and helped her out. Afterwards, everyone stopped entangled with this issue and went home. The next morning, Muen received an order from the third Hokage, and a new mission came. Please collect, recommend, and invest. Thank you. Chapter 56 Escorting the Caravan. On a country road in the Land of Fire, with trees on both sides, a line of more than 20 carriages passed slowly. The 4 members of the Moon team, dressed as carriage boys, were arranged on the carriages. Hinata Akizuki was at the head of the team, Moon was at the end of the team, Inozuka Shida and Kurama Huan were in the middle. The mission of the Moon team this time was to protect the caravan, to arrive safely at the capital of the Land of Waves. The Land of Waves is a small island country across the sea from Konoha. It is located in the east of Konoha, between the Land of Fire and the Land of Water. The domestic situation is complicated. It is the forefront of the competition between the Land of Fire and the Land of Water. There are constant wars in the country and people's livelihood is withering. Since there is no ninja village in the Land of Waves, the daimyo lacks strong military support, and the rule of the country is extremely fragile. Various powerful groups in the country, including the daimyo, hire ninjas to maintain their own power. Except for a small number of wandering ninjas, the rest of these ninjas are basically from Konoha or Kirigakure. In this mission, the confidentiality level of the caravan information is extremely high. Even the mission parties such as Muen's team are within the scope of confidentiality. In addition, this mission was personally rated as S level by the third Hokage. From these appearances, Muen would not be naive to think that this mission is really as simple as escorting the caravan. Therefore, from the beginning, Muen asked the team members to be more vigilant and not to be careless. In a highly tense alert, Muen and the caravan walked non-stop for 4 days before arriving at a pier on the seaside. In these 4 days, except for driving away 2 groups of bandits who robbed the road, they did not encounter any decent enemies, let alone ninjas from other villages. This once made Muen think that he really thought too much. This is just a simple escort mission, but Muen also knew that this was an illusion. The reason why the journey was safe for 4 days was, on the one hand, that the mission information was kept confidential very well, and potential enemies might not have mastered their intelligence information, and on the other hand, Konoha's strong patrol measures on the border over the past year made it difficult for enemy village ninjas to sneak into the line of fire quietly. Master Ninja, our merchant ship will not arrive at the dock until tomorrow morning, so we can only rest here for one night. At this time, a hunchbacked old man came over and said to Muen. This old man was the manager of this caravan. Although he was surprised that Master Ninja was still a child, he did not dare to have too many doubts. After all, how could ordinary people like them say anything about ninjas? Okay, I understand. After Muen told the old man manager that he understood, the old man left. In Muen's eyes, the old man was wearing makeup, his beard was glued on, and his hunchback was fake. He should be in his 30s. This also further proves the fact that this mission is not simple. At night, in a secret place somewhere on the dock, two men were having a secret discussion in the dark. It's that caravan. The third son must be in that caravan. One of them said. Are you sure? Another man's voice sounded. This kind of thing can't be joked about. If you provide the wrong information to the ninja master, you will lose your life. Of course I'm sure. Xiangte has always been inseparable from the third son, although he is disguised as an old man this time. However, given my familiarity with him, I will not make a mistake, even if he turns into ashes. The third son must be in that caravan. The first voice said bitterly, okay, I will use the method that the ninja master told me to pass the message back. Half an hour later, a fish was released at the dock, and it quickly disappeared into the sea with the information in its mouth. Muen did not expect that their information was just passed on by two ordinary people. The next morning, the merchant ship of the caravan docked at the dock. More than 20 trucks of goods were quickly transferred to the ship with the help of dock workers, and then the entire caravan boarded the merchant ship and sailed away to the vast sea. According to the old man in charge, this voyage will take a whole day, and if nothing goes wrong, it will reach the country of waves the next day. A lame man on the coast looked at the merchant ship disappearing on the sea and muttered to himself, Shote, you broke my leg. It's not too much for me to ask for your life. Don't blame me, blame yourself. Who made you offend the ninja master? This mission is really troublesome. It takes a carriage and a boat. Inozuka Shida stood on the deck, looking at the vast sea. He felt relaxed and happy, and couldn't help taking a long breath, saying, but, this is my first time to take a boat on the sea. It feels really good. Yeah, I only saw the sea on the shore when I was patrolling before, and it's my first time to sail on the sea. Kurama Huan was also a little excited. Hey, where's Akizuki? What is Akizuki doing? Inozuka Shida didn't hear Hinata Akizuki's response, looked around, and couldn't help laughing. Akizuki, you are not seasick. Hinata Akizuki was lying on the side of the ship and vomiting towards the sea, looking listless. Even if he heard Inozuka Shida's ridicule, he didn't have the energy to refute. Hearing Inozuka Shida's ridicule, Muen was also stunned. With the physical fitness of ninjas, seasickness should be very rare. But since it appeared, Muen had to temporarily remove Hinata Akizuki from his own combat power list during the battle. Muen had a strong premonition that, if this mission really had twists and turns, the enemy would definitely not give up this day and night on the sea. At midnight, the setting sun struggled not to fall, but a thick layer of fog suddenly filled the sea. In Muen's perception, a group of ninjas were rushing forward not far ahead. Shida, Huan is on guard on the boat. I'll be back soon. Muen suddenly said to Inozuka Shida and Kurama Huan. The two did not hesitate at all, and stood up, and were on guard. Hinata Akizuki also struggled to stand up, but seeing that he was in a depressed state, it was hard to say how much combat power he could exert. The caravan only had this large ship. Once the ship broke down, no matter what secrets were hidden under the mission, this mission would end in failure. Therefore, Muen's idea was to keep the enemy out of the merchant ship and fight quickly. Muen jumped up from the bow and rushed towards the enemy in front. I saw a flash of light on Muen's body. A moment later, when Muen met the enemy, a dozen enemies were killing each other, as if they couldn't see Muen. Walking on the battlefield, watching the enemies in front of him fall one by one, Muen didn't feel excited at all. Because such a large-scale fog hiding technique is obviously not something that the cats and dogs in front of him can perform. The real enemy is still hiding in the dark. Please collect, recommend, and invest. Thank you. Chapter 57. The Mist of Spirits. Muen's spiritual mist itself is just a powerful ninjutsu for sensing the enemy, and it has no attack capability. However, in the process of studying the bloodline power of the Kurama clan, as Muen's research on illusions became more and more in-depth, Muen discovered that spiritual mist has a natural compatibility with illusions. Illusions are to establish a mental connection through the enemy's 5 senses, such as eye contact, touch, and music, and then use chakra to interfere with the opponent's 5 senses, disrupt the opponent's chakra, and make it fall into illusions. Spiritual mist can already sense the enemy's thinking, and mental connection is not a problem. Spiritual mist is integrated into the enemy's chakra, and has a natural advantage in disrupting the enemy's chakra. Therefore, combined with the changes in the nature of the illusion, spiritual mist was born. Compared with other illusions, spiritual mist is better in that it can forcibly pull the enemy into the illusion without the enemy's 5 senses. It is a very domineering illusion. Compared with the spiritual mist has increased attack attributes and can launch a large-scale illusion attack. At the same time, the spiritual mist is easily detected by ninjas with strong mental power and strong anti-illusion ability, so as to find a way to get rid of it. Therefore, the spiritual mist provides a solution for Muen when he is faced with the dilemma of being besieged by a large number of ninjas, and the spiritual mist wins in secrecy. At least until now, Muen has not encountered a ninja who can detect this technique, which is the confidence of Muen when facing powerful ninjas. When all the enemies killed each other, Muen concentrated on increasing the sensing range to the maximum, but still could not sense the enemy who cast the mist hidden technique. Muen stared at the sea surface under his feet, thinking. When the sea surface suddenly filled with fog, Muen was sure that there were no other ninjas in his sensing range, except these cannon fog ninjas who had killed each other. Muen did not think that the range of a ninja in the current ninja world could exceed his sensing range. Then, there is only one possibility, that the caster performed the ninjutsu at a deeper depth. In the sea, only the sea water can greatly reduce his sensing distance. The enemy is very cautious. They will definitely attack the merchant ship again tonight. Everyone must be careful. Muen returned to the ship with a frown. Not only did he fail to catch the instigator this time, but he also leaked some of his information. Shishin, go and ask the manager of the caravan to come over, Muen said thoughtfully. Now it is time to show his cards. Muen must make the worst plan, and must know the real purpose of this mission. Inside the merchant ship at this time, the manager of the caravan was half kneeling in front of a woman and said, "Madam, we have not been attacked so far. It seems that we can return to the land of Wade safely this time." Although the manager was kneeling on the ground at this time, he was in high spirits and his hunchback was gone. "Xiangte, you can't relax until the last moment," the lady said calmly. "If you don't really enter the capital, anything can happen." The woman was about 30 years old, wearing a light green silk dress, with a string of pearls hanging around her neck, and a ruddy face. At a glance, she had lived in a family of luxury since childhood. There was also a little boy standing next to her, about 11 or 12 years old, with his eyes rolling around at this time, and he was lively and active at first glance. Even if we enter the capital, it is estimated that there will still be a life and death struggle. The woman sighed, looked at the little boy beside her, hugged him in her arms, and said, "Xiangte, no matter what happens, you must protect the young master's life, understand?" "Yes, madam," the steward Xiangte answered seriously. Then he stood up and slowly left the house. The steward who retreated outside the house turned into a hunchbacked old man again. "Sir Steward, the ninja master wants to see you." At this time, a servant of the caravan came to report. "Okay, I know." Xiangte was a little confused, wondering what a few little ninjas could do. On the deck, Xiangte was still dressed as a hunchbacked old man. "Okay, manager, stop pretending." Muen forcefully exposed the manager's disguise and continued, "We have just killed a group of enemies, but I suspect there are some that slipped through the net. The enemy's next attack will be even more fierce. I must know the true situation of this mission, so that I can better deal with the next battle." Xiangte was startled by the sudden news, but deep down he felt a little absurd. There was clearly no movement just now, and he thought the ninja on the opposite side was lying to him. Muen saw the suspicion on Xiangte's face, frowned and said, "If you can't make a decision, go ask the people who can really make the decision, that mother and son, right?" Xiangte could no longer maintain the appearance of an old man at this time. He stood up straight, stared at Nguyen with his eyes sparkling, and said, "How did you know? We are young, but we are also ninjas. Your little tricks may fool ordinary people, but it is unlikely to fool us." Nguyen said calmly, "If there were no problems along the way, we would be happy to play along with you. But now that we have encountered an enemy, both sides naturally need to be more honest. As expected of a young Jonin of Konoha." At this time, a clear voice came, and it was a woman who walked out with a little boy. "Madam." Xiangte was about to say something, but the woman raised her hand to stop him. "I believe this ninja master." The woman said again, "What do you want to know? Just ask. Is this mission to protect people or things?" "Protect people? Which one or which ones?" The woman looked at the little boy beside her and said, "As long as my son Bingai can be saved, everything else can be sacrificed, including me." "Okay, since that's what you said, then I understand." Nguyen turned to Inuzuka Shida, Kurama Huan, and Hinata Akizuki and said, "From now on, the three of you must not leave the 5-meter range of the child Bingai. Once the situation changes unfavorably, immediately take him out of the encirclement." The three immediately surrounded the boy Bingai in the middle and made a warning. The physical fitness of the ninja is still good. After a period of adaptation, the seasick Hinata Akizuki's body has gradually begun to adapt. Of course, breaking out is the worst case. Nguyen comforted the woman and the steward Xiangte. "We will do our best to ensure the safety of the entire ship." "No, this arrangement is very good," the woman affirmed. After arranging the battle strategy, Nguyen stood at the bow waiting for the arrival of the enemy. The other three members of the team followed the little boy Bingai closely and went into the cabin. The steward Xiangte also had no intention of falling asleep and waited with Nguyen until the early morning. Just when he thought that the ninja in front of him was making a fuss and the enemy would not appear again, Nguyen's voice came, breaking his fantasy. "Here they come." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 58, Fighting Old Enemies Again. The steward Xiangte was shocked and quickly lay on the boat to look outside. He could not see anything under the weak moonlight and could only hear the sound of waves, but he did not see any shadow of the enemy. Then he turned his head and looked at Nguyen in confusion, as if saying, "You kid are lying again, why didn't I see it?" Nguyen did not have time to explain his doubts to Xiangte and said without turning his head, "You go back to the cabin and organize the ordinary people in the caravan to hide. If you are lucky, you may still survive." After that, Nguyen let out a long whistle, jumped off the bow, and chased after the enemy he found. In the cabin, Inuzuka Shida, Kurama Huan, and Hinata Akizuki heard Nguyen's long whistle and immediately understood that the enemy had come. They immediately concentrated their minds and prepared to resist the enemy. Hinata Akizuki, whose face was still a little pale, even forced himself to concentrate and opened his Byakugan. There were two enemies in Nguyen's sensing. The chakra reaction was very strong. It can be determined that they were at the level of Jonin. At this time, both sides were heading towards each other at full speed. Less than half a quarter of an hour later, the two sides met head on. Seeing the opponent on the opposite side, a look of surprise flashed across Nguyen's face. These were two familiar faces, the two mist hidden ninja duo who attacked the team when Nguyen's team was on patrol last year. At the time, the two successfully held Nguyen back, forcing Nguyen to use the shadow clone technique to successfully escape, and finally successfully rescued the remaining three members of the team at the critical moment. The outfits of the mist hidden ninja duo remained unchanged. The one with short hair and a black mask was a water escape ninja, and the one with long hair was an ice shield bloodline ninja. At this time, the two were not surprised to see Nguyen. As soon as the two sides met, the mist hidden ninja duo turned around and ran, pretending that they didn't want to fight Nguyen head on. Nguyen frowned and felt that there was a trick, but he still followed. In this way, the two sides chased and fled for another half a quarter of an hour, and Nguyen frowned and stopped. Nguyen was very sure that the opponent on the opposite side was leading him away from the merchant ship. At this time, Nguyen had already arrived at the place where the two were when he found the mist-hidden ninja duo. At this time, seeing Nguyen stop, the mist-hidden ninja duo also turned around, and the short-haired water ninja said admiringly, "You are worthy of being one of the future twin stars of Konoha. I really didn't expect that you would come to Konoha this time. But I have to admit that you have grown up very quickly. I was shocked to see your super long distance illusion at the bottom of the sea during the day. So the mist-hidden jutsu during the day was performed by you." Nguyen suddenly realized at this time, and then said, "It seems that you have mastered a lot of information about me in the past year. Of course, for enemies that must be eliminated, the more information you have, the better." At this time, the long-haired ice ninja on the side spoke. "The reason why you stopped here is because this is the limit of your sensing distance. As long as you go forward, you can't take care of your teammates on the ship, right?" The short-haired water ninja continued. Hearing the words of the short-haired water ninja, Nguyen frowned unconsciously. It seems that the actions during the day did leak a lot of information. But, have you ever thought that, even if you don't move forward, you will definitely be able to take care of your teammates on the ship? Seeing that Nguyen didn't reply, the short-haired water-style ninja continued, "This is the sea. If you don't move forward, we can make the ship retreat, haha." Nguyen's face changed drastically in an instant, and he was about to go back. But at this moment, a bubble rushed out from the seabed not far behind Nguyen. Then, the bubble broke, and a ninja with 2 red dots on his eyebrows and white hair walked out of it. This obvious sign indicated that this was a ninja from the Kaguya clan. "I heard that you killed my son, so don't think about leaving this time," the Kaguya ninja said coldly. Seeing this, Nguyen was ready for battle, and he also understood that it was impossible to return to the ship for support without deciding the outcome with these 3 people. At this time, the wind and waves in the distance rolled the merchant ship back continuously, and everyone on the ship changed their expressions. This unreasonable astronomical phenomenon appeared, and anyone knew that the enemy had come. The woman looked at the child beside her with a firm gaze, and it was obvious that she had already made up her mind to die. "3 ninjas, I'm leaving my son in your care. Take him and run away. It's not time yet, madam. Don't underestimate us." Inozuka Shida said calmly, "Madam, take the children to organize the ordinary people on the ship first. The farther away from us the better. There will be a big battle next, and ordinary people involved will surely die. Let's go to the deck to meet the enemy. Ninjas, I'll go with you." At this time, the child said with his eyes rolling, "Oh, why?" Kuramahuan said puzzledly, "Because that senior ninja said that you should not leave me 5 meters away." The child being I did not feel afraid of the danger that followed, and said clearly, "Besides, the enemy's target is me. Only if I go to the deck with you, the enemy's target will be clear, and they will not attack randomly. In this way, my mother and the ordinary people in the caravan will have a better chance of survival." Bingai, don't. When the woman heard the child say this, tears welled up in her eyes, and she was very anxious. "Mother, I love you. Your life and their lives are precious. You shouldn't die for me." Bingi broke free from the woman's hand, smiled and said, "Ninja, let's go." It was obvious that the little boy had convinced the 3 members of the team. Then, the 4 of them stood up and walked out of the cabin, ready to welcome the arrival of the enemy. Looking at the 3 people in front of him who were obviously difficult to deal with, Nguyen made a seal, and the spiritual mist flashed, and instantly entered the bodies of the 3 mist-hidden ninjas. Nguyen's battle preparations were complete. At this moment, a water dragon and an ice dragon came out of the sea and attacked Nguyen. Nguyen was galloping on the sea. The 2 dragons cooperated tacitly, and Nguyen couldn't get rid of them for a while. It turned out that the short-haired water escape ninja and the long-haired ice shield ninja took the lead in launching the attack. Although the 2 of them didn't know what secret technique Nguyen was using, they knew some of the characteristics of the secret technique, so they decided to focus on ninjutsu long-range attack from the beginning. They did grasp some tricks to fight Nguyen. Nguyen gathered his strength a little, and with 2 punches, he broke the 2 dragon hammers into water droplets and ice crystals, and dropped them into the sea. However, before Nguyen could catch his breath, The senior ninja of the Kaguya clan rushed behind Muen with bone spurs all over his body. Muen could avoid the attack of the bone spurs by a hair's breadth without turning around. This shocked the senior ninja of Kaguya and made him believe the information shared by the other two. At this time, Muen was more relaxed about the application of the spiritual mist. Please collect, recommend, and invest. Thank you all. Chapter 59. The Power of Sword Escape. A year ago, Muen could barely connect and sense 3 ninjas when he used the spiritualization technique to concentrate his attention. If there were more, he would easily lose sight of one and the other. Today, a year later, Muen no longer has this worry. No matter how many people there are, he can clearly sense them. A year ago, when Muen cast the spiritualization mist, each person was a separate picture in his mind. Therefore, with each additional person, the brain has to process information exponentially. Now, Muen connects the consciousness of the spiritualization mist in all people's bodies with the main body as a core, forming a whole, and forming a picture in the mind, so the brain is naturally much more relaxed. Muen was at ease under the attack of the 3 people, and was not in a hurry to fight back. Muen's brain was running fast, thinking about the best attack plan. Suddenly, Muen frowned, and while dodging the attack, he formed seals with his hands, and a flash of spiritual light flashed on his body. When the 3 besiegers saw that Muen had completed the seal, they all took a few steps back in an instant, and a gap appeared in the siege. Muen immediately seized this rare opportunity, and with a flash body technique got rid of the 3 people, and rushed to the location of the merchant ship. I was killing you. Look how scared you are. Muen ran, while dodging the attacks behind him, and said with a sneer, with your guts, you still want to kill me here, you are dreaming. Muen rushed forward quickly, and the 3 people behind him tried desperately to intercept Muen. At this moment, Muen suddenly did the opposite, and came to the front of the short-haired water ninja with a flash, and used super strength. Faced with the threat of death, without the brain reacting, the short-haired water ninja's physical instincts trained in life and death naturally used the water array wall to block Muen's super strength fist for a moment. At this moment, the other 2 ninjas reacted and attacked Muen quickly, and Muen had to dodge. Then, the 4 people confronted each other again. It seems that we have to be more careful. The short-haired water-style ninja who had walked through the brink of life and death could not help but say in fear, it seems that I really can't let you grow up. No matter what the price, I will let you die here today. However, you are too confident. The short-haired water shield ninja continued, you clearly had the opportunity to leave just now. Why did you turn back? Do you think you can definitely kill me? Muen didn't speak, half squatted down, holding the dagger tied to his calf with his right hand, and said, there is also a possibility, that is, I also want to kill you here, and I'm not in a hurry to return to the ship. You are also very confident. How can you be so sure that I can no longer sense the situation on the ship? Muen said coldly, maybe the information you analyzed is wrong. Muen's words made the 3 frown. Although they were not panicked, their attention was instantly distracted a little, and they couldn't help thinking about the possibility of what Muen said. At this time, Muen instantly triggered the spiritual fog in the bodies of the 3 people. It turned out that the flash of light on Muen's body just now was this technique, and not a real fraud. It was just that, because the 3 people were highly vigilant at the time, Muen suppressed the effect of the ninjutsu, and the phantom mist merged into the bodies of the 3 people and lurked. Although the phantom mist may not be very effective for the senior ninja, Muen only needs a moment now. Muen came to the long-haired ice ninja in an instant, and the short sword in his hand shone with white light. With one slash, the head of the person was separated. When Muen came to the short-haired water ninja in an instant, the water ninja woke up from the illusion with horror on his face. Seeing Muen's short sword shining with white light slashing down, the water array wall rushed between the 2 again. At this time, the sword light on the short sword in Muen's hand surged more than 3 feet, and with one slash, another head flew high. The old grudge from a year ago was finally settled today. At this time, Kaguya Ninja had also woken up from the illusion. However, Muen had come to his side at this time. Although he was covered with thick exoskeleton armor, he could only roar twice under the power of spiritual mist and sword escape, following in the footsteps of his son. This was the first time Muen used sword escape, since he practiced it, and it achieved a fairly brilliant effect. Muen was very satisfied. Hatakesakuma used sword escape with his magical instant body technique and his own combat talent, making the name of Konoha Whitefang resound throughout the ninja world. Muen's combat talent can only be said to be average, but with the weirdness of Spiritual Mist and Spiritual Mist, he would not fall into the reputation of sword escape. In Muen's perception, the 3 teammates on the ship are also very dangerous. Then, Muen didn't even collect the spoils, and rushed straight to the merchant ship. You know, there are 2 corpses of bloodline ninjas here, which are very precious research resources. Muen had 2 of them, and originally planned to use them for his own research. Later, he found that he didn't need them for his research. In addition, he was short of money, so he finally gave them to the village, to exchange for success medals and money. Inozuka Shida, Kirima Huan, and Hinata Rakizuki protected the little boy Bingai in the middle, and walked to the deck. The wind and waves strangely rolled the boat backwards, and what was even more strange was that in Hinata Rakizuki's eyes, the distance was calm. The 4 people were on the boat, and waited for a long time before the wind and waves subsided. They knew that the enemy was about to come up. Under the calm sea, countless bubbles suddenly rushed out. At first glance, there were at least more than 30. Every time a bubble burst, an enemy would come out, which made the 4 people on the deck scalp numb instantly. But the strange thing was that when these enemies were rushing to the deck, they suddenly turned around and rushed towards the 2 ninjas behind them who were obviously senior ninjas. It's Muen's illusion. It's really terrible. Inozuka Shida sighed. Muen has always understood that the victory or defeat between ninjas is largely determined by the collection of intelligence information about the opponent. Therefore, Muen will hide some of the intelligence that he does not want to reveal in the mist. For example, the collection of the bodies of the deceased bloodline mentioned above. Time does not allow one reason, but more importantly, there is information about sword escape on these 2 bodies, and Muen does not want to reveal the information about sword escape, so he will not bring these 2 bodies back to Konoha anyway. Muen's sensing distance is related to the range of his multiple ninjutsu, so this is also one of Muen's most confidential information. Even Muen's 3 teammates don't know much about it, so how could it be so easily analyzed by the enemy? What the enemy analyzed is just what Muen wants the enemy to know. Collected and recommended. Thank you. Chapter 60 Prince dies. One of the 2 Jonins leading the enemy wore an Anbu mask on his face, had long yellow hair, and slender limbs. He could not tell whether he was a man or a woman. He held a long sword that looked like a long thin needle, with a thin steel wire tied to the handle. The other had black braids, and was a one-eyed man with a black cloth covering his left eye. He carried a double-edged sword on his back, with one side being an ordinary blade and the other side attached with countless detonating talismans. The 2 Jonins were suddenly besieged by their fellow ninjas, but they did not show any panic. In particular, the one-eyed ninja licked his lips, showing a bloodthirsty look, and rushed forward. The long sword in the masked ninja's hand stabbed out like a flying needle, as if it could pierce through everything. With the cooperation of the steel wire at the handle, the attack range was far and the lethality was great. The long sword sewed many enemies together like a needle. On the other side, the one-eyed ninja swung his double-edged sword, and countless detonating talismans floated out, causing explosions one after another, causing a large number of casualties. In less than 10 breaths, most of the ninjas besieging the 2 ninjas with swords had been killed or injured. Inozuka Shida and Kurama Huan looked at each other and realized that they couldn't let the 2 ninjas with swords get rid of everyone so easily. Inozuka Shida and Prince rushed towards the one-eyed ninja. Kurama Huan rushed towards the masked ninja, and with the cooperation of the other ninjas, they besieged the 2 ninjas with swords. Hinata Rakizuki was still a little depressed, and had to guard the little boy Bingai. With the addition of Inozuka Shida and Kurama Huan, the killing speed of the 2 ninjas with swords really slowed down. But even in the siege, the 2 ninjas with swords still had the upper hand, and from time to time someone was pierced by the long sword, or killed by the detonating tag. In this way, slowly only 4 people survived on the battlefield. Don't you feel guilty for killing your companions like this? Inozuka Shida frowned, dodging the flying detonating tags, and suppressed his anger, and said in a deep voice, "This is completely contrary to Inozuka Shida's ninja way." Inozuka Shida believes that ninjas should not be like this. What companions? They are just wandering ninjas. The one-eyed ninja kept attacking and said tirelessly, don't say they are not companions. Even if they are companions, what's wrong? People without skills don't deserve to live. Inozuka Shida struggled to support himself in the explosion and had no way to launch a counterattack for a while. On the other side, although Kirima Huan's physical skills have been significantly improved, after all, the time of practicing dream physical training is still short. It's okay to deal with ordinary ninjas. Facing the enemy in front of him, physical skills alone are not enough. Kirima Huan obviously understood this point. He seized the opportunity to perform illusion in the physical skill confrontation and pulled the opponent's spirit into the illusion space. At this time, Hinata Rakizuki on the boat also decisively seized the opportunity. Two instant bodies arrived next to the masked ninja, and soft fist method 8 trigrams 128 palms poured down. At this time, Hinata Rakizuki did not look at all depressed due to seasickness. On the other side, the one-eyed ninja saw his companion in danger, but did not rescue him immediately. Instead, when he saw that there was no one guarding the little boy, he immediately used the knife in his hand to swung a large number of detonating talismans to blow Inozuka Shida away, and then rushed straight to the little boy Bingai. Inozuka Shida was furious, and in an instant he launched a ninjutsu with the prince, transformed into a giant two-headed wolf, jumped up and stood between the one-eyed ninja and Bingai. Facing the flying detonating talismans, the two-headed wolf did not give in, but rushed towards the one-eyed ninja angrily. This was also beyond the expectations of the one-eyed ninja. In the moment, when he was stunned, he slapped him away with a claw. On the other side, after being attacked by a series of moves by Hinata Rakizuki, the masked ninja woke up from the illusion, but was already seriously injured. He wanted to escape at the first time, but Hinata Rakizuki and Kirima Huan would not let him go. No matter how special the long sword in his hand was, he could not escape the fate of defeat. Under the reckless attack of the two-headed wolf, the one-eyed ninja gradually fell into a disadvantage. Just when Inozuka Shida thought victory was in sight, the one-eyed ninja suddenly used the double-edged sword in his hand to summon a large number of detonating talismans surrounding the two of them. It turned out that the one-eyed ninja saw that the masked ninja had been defeated and knew that his life was coming to an end, so he launched a suicidal attack. There was only a loud boom, and the sea surface suddenly dropped to the limit. The strong wind caused by the explosion almost overturned the boat not far away. Hinata Rakizuki and Kirima Huan, who were blown away by the storm, were shocked and rushed to the center of the explosion. It was seen that Inozuka Shida and the prince had already released the two-headed wolf form and fainted on the sea. The two immediately picked up the man and the dog, jumped up and returned to the boat. Shida is in a slightly better condition, but the prince is not in a good condition. Although Hinata Rakizuki does not know medical ninjutsu, he can still see a lot of things clearly under his Byakugan, and frowned. We can only wait until Muen comes back, and we don't know what the situation is over there. Kirima Huan said worriedly. With Captain Muen's strength, there will be no problem, don't worry. Hinata Rakizuki has great confidence in Muen. At this time, Muen was not far from the ship. He also saw the huge explosion in his perception. He was very anxious, and no longer stingy with the consumption of chakra. He left in an instant. In less than a while, Muen had returned to the ship. He didn't have time to say hello to Kirima Huan and Hinata Rakizuki. Muen hurried to a ward that had just been vacated to check on the situation of one person and one dog. As Hinata Rakizuki saw with his Byakugan, although Inozuka Shida was seriously injured, he was probably not in danger of life. However, the situation of the prince was not very good. He was already at the end of his life, and the extinguishing of the fire of life seemed irreversible. Muen, how is the situation? Seeing that Muen had finished the investigation, Kirima Huan asked hurriedly. Inozuka Shida should not be in danger of life, and the prince has. Muen shook his head, and did not continue. Kirima Huan and Hinata Rakizuki were silent after hearing this. Although the prince could not speak, they had been on missions together for so long, and had deep feelings for each other. I need a quiet environment to heal Shida's wounds. You go out first. After hearing Muen's words, the two people who were immersed in sadness did not doubt him, and walked out the door. At this time, Muen did not heal Inuzuka Shida's wounds. Instead, he walked to the side of the prince, quickly formed a seal, and a layer of hazy spiritual light appeared on his right palm and pressed on the top of the prince's head. Muen was highly concentrated, and as Muen raised his hand, a spiritualized prince emerged from the body on the bed with Muen's palm. Please collect and recommend. Thank you all. Chapter 61 Real Mission. Muen wiped the beads of sweat from his forehead and said to the spirit prince who was looking around with curiosity, with my current ability, I can't save you. I can only let you reappear in the world for a short time in this way. Now I will seal you and wait for Shida to wake up before letting you see each other for the last time. Woof woof. Muen seemed to hear the voice of the spirit prince, which still sounded so cheerful, without the slightest sadness. Then, Muen took out the sealing scroll and sealed the spirit prince. Of course, the prince on the bed had no breath of life at this time. Then, Muen walked to Inuzuka Shida and began to give emergency treatment. On the deck, Kirama Huan and Hinata Kihuayu looked ahead, looking serious and alert to the enemies, who might appear at any time. At this time, the little boy Bingai came over and said, I'm sorry because I injured one of you so badly. You don't have to feel sorry, we are just carrying out the mission. Kirama Huan said coldly. After all, the prince had just died, and her mood could not be much better. I'm more curious about your identity than your apology. Hinata Rakizuki continued, the ninjas who came today are not simple. How could ordinary people send out such powerful ninjas? If you don't want to talk, forget it. Looking at Bingyi who pursed his lips and didn't speak, Hinata Rakizuki said indifferently. Then, he walked to the other side with Kurama Huan and stayed away from Bingyi. Bingyi didn't say anything, but lowered his head and pondered something. After a while, Muen had completed the treatment of Inuzuka Shida. He came to the deck to ask the two team members about the battle situation. Although Muen could sense some of it, he didn't see it with his own eyes after all. Then, Hinata Rakizuki took out a small sealing scroll, and two knives with strange shapes appeared on the deck. Muen looked at the knives on the deck and listened to the two people describing the battle process. A strange emotion flashed through his heart. Although he didn't remember the names of these two people, he was sure that this was the second of the 7 ninja swordsmen of Kirigakure who would be famous in the future. He didn't expect to die here now. Let's go meet the owner here. Muen turned and walked into the ship. I need to know the true situation of the mission. Then, Kurama Huan and Hinata Rakizuki followed. In the cabin, Muen and the woman sat opposite each other. Facing Muen's question, the woman hesitated for a while, and before she could say anything else, the little boy Bingai next to her spoke first. My name is Hata Bingai. Hearing Bingai's full name, the woman was shocked and said, Bingai, how can you say it? Mother, there is nothing to hide anymore. Bingai seemed to have thought for a long time and said, if we want to return to the capital safely, we can't do without the help of all the ninja masters. Now the only way to get the full help of the ninja masters is to tell the truth and treat people with sincerity. Muen looked at Hinata Rakizuki, who was shocked by the boy's full name, and said, Akizuki, what does this name mean? Captain Muen, Hata is the surname of the daimyo of the Land of Waves. Hinata Rakizuki came back to his senses and answered, yes, I'm the third son of the current daimyo of Wave Country. Hata Hiaya said, I'm back to Wave Country this time, to prepare to inherit the daimyo position. Before Muen continued to ask, the woman next to him told the whole story. It turned out that the woman was originally the daughter of the lord of a small city in Far Country. In the end, she married the daimyo of Wave Country by mistake and gave birth to Hata Hiaya. Some time ago, the woman returned to Far Country with her son to visit her parents. It was at this time that a major change occurred in Wave Country. The daimyo suddenly became seriously ill, and the eldest and second sons died one after another, leaving only the third son who was far away in Far Country and the fourth son who was only 5 years old. Of course, the woman didn't know these things at first. When she was about to return to Wave Country, after visiting her parents, the steward Xiangte disguised himself and went to Far Country to find her and told her about the changes in Wave Country. Afterwards, the woman had to ask her father to find Konoha to issue the task, which led to a series of events in which Muen's team took on the S-level task. What is the current situation in the Kingdom of Waves? Nguyen asked with a frown. The Kingdom of Waves was originally controlled by the Daimyo and two factions. But some time ago, the leader of one of the factions was changed to a guy named Kan, and everything changed. The woman continued. He hired a large number of wandering ninjas and suddenly attacked the other faction. Everything that happened now should be his doing. At this point, the mystery of this S-level mission finally dissipated. Escorting a caravan became escorting the Daimyo's son. Afterwards, the three members of Nguyen's team returned to the deck to continue their vigilance. Nguyen, are we still going to carry out this mission? Kurama Huan said with some concern. Shishin has been seriously injured. Do we have enough strength? Continue the mission. Nguyen said firmly, this is the land of waves, not the land of water. 5 mist-hidden ninjas have already appeared. I don't believe that a small group of forces in the land of waves can have more power. I'm afraid that the 2 groups of ninjas who attacked us today may have been all of them. But we must also be prepared to evacuate at any time if things get out of hand. We can't divide our forces this time. Nguyen then added seriously. After a while, a light had already appeared faintly on the sea in the distance, and a big sun covered by the sea seemed to want to jump up. Although there were occasional twists and turns on the way, not much time was wasted. According to the scheduled itinerary, Nguyen and his team were already very close to the land of waves. At this time, the woman came to the deck holding the hand of Hata. In the future, when I become the Daimyo, I must build more bridges and ships on this sea to facilitate people's travel. Hata said with emotion like a little adult. Several ninjas, as long as I can become the Daimyo, I will never forget your kindness in the future. As long as there is something, I will do my best. As for Hata, Nguyen initially thought that this would be a lively and active child. However, after hearing from Kurama Huan what the little boy said when the enemy attacked, he changed his mind. He is already a responsible man. At this time, hearing what Hata said, Nguyen thought that if this child became the Daimyo of the Wave Country, it might be a good thing for the people of the Wave Country. Then remember your words. Maybe one day we will really need your help. Nguyen said with a smile. Please give me some recommendations and investments. Thank you. Chapter 62 New topic. Kan was an old man in his 50s or 60s. He was standing at the dock, leaning on a cane with both hands, staring at the sea in the distance, as if waiting for something. Kado, after today, the Kingdom of Waves will belong to our family. Kan was in a good mood. After all, the plan was going very smoothly. As long as the last battle at sea was over, everything would be settled. Yes, father. Kan stood behind Kan on the right and echoed. Kan was a middle-aged man in his 30s, not tall, with a mustache. Behind the 2 men, there was a large group of fierce people, their bodyguards. But these people were bare-chested, some standing and some sitting, and they were loose and sloppy. It might be more appropriate to call them hooligans. You still don't understand the meaning of this. Seeing that Kado didn't seem to understand the meaning of this, Kan shook his head and explained, no matter how weak or small the Wave Country is, it is still a country. As long as we control this country, wealth will come in an endless stream, and our family will prosper forever. As long as there is money, there is power. Look at these ninjas. Whether they are wandering ninjas or ninjas from the so-called ninja village, they all succumb to money. Kan said with high spirits, when you take over the family in the future, you must firmly control the Wave Country in your hands. At this time, a merchant ship appeared in Kan's sight. Look, it must be that the ninjas have eliminated the enemy and returned on the merchant ship. Kan said excitedly. He didn't even think about the possibility of losing. You know, this is a powerful ninja that he almost spent all his family property to hire. Kado behind him also showed excitement. Power and wealth are at his fingertips. Nguyen and others on the ship certainly also discovered the people at the dock. Kyu, go ask the steward if they know these people at the dock. In Nguyen's perception, these people are just ordinary people, and he didn't think that they were the source of the unrest in the land of waves. After a while, the steward Xiante came to the bow, took out a telescope, and took a look. He was so scared that he took a breath and said nervously, that is Kan, and he is the one who wants to kill the young master. Nguyen heard this, and looked at Inita Kyu and Kurama Huan, and everything was self-evident. It seems that things are indeed as Nguyen thought, and the enemy has no more power. Kan did not welcome the ninjas hired by his side as he wished, but saw two young men running from the sea. Although he was very surprised, Kan reacted quickly and pulled Kado back into the crowd, hoping that these mobs could protect their safety. But all this was in vain. The gap in strength between ordinary people and ninjas cannot be crossed by numbers. Nguyen stood on the bow and had not made a move yet, and the enemy had been declared dead. Even if Kan had more resentment, he could only accept the result of defeat. Xiangte on the bow saw for the first time what kind of situation the battle between ninjas and ordinary people was like, and was stunned with surprise. Although he could feel a huge movement outside the ship when the ninja attacked at night, he had not seen it with his own eyes, so how could he have such a shock to his heart? After the first harm was eliminated, Nguyen and others did not encounter any twists and turns on the way to the capital of the Kingdom of Waves. That afternoon, the group arrived at the destination. As the son of the daimyo, his mother was born into the Konoha noble family, and Hatta Hiaya naturally had a large number of supporters. Now that Kan is dead, it means that the two major power groups in the Kingdom of Waves have been defeated, and it is a good time to take back power. Hatta Hiaya has not yet succeeded the daimyo, but has begun to exercise the rights of the daimyo, and taken over the power vacuum left by the two major power groups. Of course, this is indispensable with the help of Kurama Huan and Hinata Akizuki. Nguyen is concentrating on treating Inuzuka Shida's injuries. It was not until 3 days later that Inuzuka Shida woke up from his coma. After waking up, Inuzuka Shida immediately asked about the prince's condition. "I'm sorry, Shida. The prince was too seriously injured, and I couldn't save him." Nguyen was silent for a while, but still chose to tell the truth. Hearing Nguyen's words, Inuzuka Shida fell silent for a while. Then tears flowed from his eyes like marbles, and he murmured to himself, "When the explosion occurred, it was the prince who blocked most of the injuries for me, otherwise I should have died. He died for me. I believe that the prince was willing, and he didn't regret saving you with his life," Nguyen said comfortingly. Then, Nguyen helped Inuzuka Shida sit up from the bed and said, "Don't think I'm lying to you again. I have evidence. If you don't believe me, look." As he said that, Nguyen took out a small scroll, and after the seal was lifted, the spirit prince jumped out. Seeing that Inuzuka Shida had already woken up, he hurriedly ran to him and turned around, barking with woof non-stop, as if asking Inuzuka Shida how his injuries were recovering. His eyes were clear, without any sadness or regret. This is the prince. It's really the prince. Thank you so much, Nguyen." Seeing the appearance of the spirit prince, Inuzuka Shida was excited, and then looked at Nguyen with hope and said, "Can the spirit prince survive? It's impossible. When the body is dead, the spirit is just a rootless source. When the chakra dissipates, the spirit will also dissipate." Nguyen shook his head and said with some regret, "Then what about using my body? Combining the spirit prince with my body, can the prince survive?" Inuzuka Shida heard Nguyen's words and did not show disappointment, but said more excitedly. Nguyen did not expect that Inuzuka Shida would be so imaginative at this time. Before he could answer, Inuzuka Shida's voice came again. "Nguyen, if I know it's you, then I can do it." Inuzuka Shida stared at Nguyen and said confidently, "Although you have always said that Huan's physical skills have made rapid progress because he has practiced the family secret technique, I have always understood that it is not the secret technique of the Kurama clan. If there is, they would have used it long ago. Why wait until now?" Inuzuka Shida paused, then said, "It's you, right? You created this secret technique. During that time, you two were always together in mystery." Nguyen did not deny it, and said seriously, "This is also a very interesting topic for me. I can try it, but I need your cooperation. I even need to understand the secret techniques of your Inuzuka clan. Of course, this is not the most important thing. Unlike Kurama Huan, this requires experiments on you, and your life may be in danger. Moreover, will the prince be willing?" Chapter 63 How to Coexist. "I grew up with the prince since I was a child. He won't be unwilling." Inuzuka Shida looked at the spirit prince running around excitedly, passing through one physical object after another, and seemed to be very interested in the spirit state. "Well, we will start research after we go back." Nguyen thought for a while, and then said, "It seems that only the sealing technique can solve this problem. It seems that I have to study the sealing technique carefully when I return to the village. Muen looked at the spirit prince who seemed to be more illusory and looked at Inuzuka Shida. Then, Inuzuka Shida calmed the spirit prince down, and the man and the dog seemed to communicate something again. The spirit prince obediently let Muen seal it with the scroll again. When there was a glimmer of hope that the prince could survive, Inuzuka Shida's sad mood was slightly better. In order to better cooperate with Muen's research, Inuzuka Shida forced himself to cheer up. Hinata Rakizuki and Kurama Huan, who did not know the truth, thought that Inuzuka Shida was just forcing a smile and left the sadness to themselves. After all, with their understanding of Inuzuka Shida, they can imagine how much of a blow the death of the prince would have on Inuzuka Shida. For this reason, Hinata Rakizuki also found Muen on purpose. He said, "Captain Muen, I think we have to think of a way to let Shida vent his sadness. If he holds it back for a long time, there will definitely be problems." Muen smiled and said, "Don't worry, Shida is not as fragile as you think. He will be fine." Hinata Rakizuki believed in Muen's words. When he heard Muen say this, he had to leave with a lot of doubts in his mind. 3 more days passed, and Inuzuka Shida was able to walk. Hata Hiyori had also successfully succeeded to the position of daimyo. The mission of Muen's team had been successfully completed, and it was time to return to the village. The 4 members of the team sat on the return boat. Muen was playing with a token in his hand. On one side of the token was a wave character, and on the other side was a night character. This was the token that the little boy forcibly handed to Muen when the 4 of them left. "This is my promise. If you have any requests in the future, you can report your name, Muen, with this token, and our wave country will definitely go all out," Hata Bingai said with a serious face. Muen did not refuse and took the token. "Muen, will this token really be useful to you?" Kurama Huan said doubtfully. "Who knows what will happen in the future?" Muen smiled faintly and took the token into his arms. Although the wave country is small, it is also the friendship of a daimyo. Facing the treacherous situation of the waves in the future, any bit of power is worth fighting for. The wave country is a pretty good way out. Because Inuzuka Shida was injured, the 4 people were not fast along the way, and it took them 5 days to return to Konoha. The death of Inuzuka Shida's accompanying ninja dog caused a certain range of commotion in the Inuzuka clan. After all, Inuzuka Shida's rapid growth in the past 2 years is obvious to all, and he can be regarded as a genius of the Inuzuka clan. But almost all the secret techniques of the Inuzuka clan require the cooperation of ninja dogs to complete. Inuzuka ninjas who lose their ninja dogs will lose most of their combat effectiveness. This also means that Inuzuka Shida, who had the opportunity to become the future of the Inuzuka clan, has fallen. After all, no one knows how long it will take to train a new ninja dog to form combat effectiveness. And even if a new ninja dog is trained, there will definitely not be the tacit cooperation of the first ninja dog. After your injury is healed, choose a new ninja dog. Even if you can't become a top master, you still have to work hard to become an excellent ninja. Inuzuka Shida's father, Inuzuka-ji, said to Inuzuka Shida on the hospital bed. Inuzuka Shida pursed his lips and said nothing. Seeing this, Inuzuka Shida's mother Inuzuka Tsubasa looked at Inuzuka-ji with a reproachful look and said, "The prince just left, why are you in such a hurry to find a new partner?" "Shida, we are not in a hurry. It is not too late to find a new partner when we feel better. If it really doesn't work, it's no big deal for this ninja to not do it." Hearing this, Inuzuka-ji was not happy and said excitedly, "How can this be possible? How can my son Inuzuka-ji be defeated like this?" However, before Inuzuka-ji finished speaking, he was suppressed by Inuzuka Tsubasa with a look. After handing in the mission report, Muen returned home and seriously thought about the problem of letting Inuzuka Shida and the prince coexist. General sealing techniques, such as sealing the tailed beasts to become Jinkriki, are better for ninjas to use the chakra of the tailed beasts. The purpose is to suppress the tailed beasts and use the tailed beasts chakra. The prince must not use these seals. The prince is different from the tailed beasts. It is just a spirit. The chakra is rapidly dissipating. Once it is sealed in this way, it will definitely dissipate in the sealed space. The seal of the prince must be able to use Inuzuka Shida's own chakra to nourish his spirit body at ordinary times, and release chakra to fight together in battle. When thinking of this, Muen thought of a sealing technique, Yin Seal. which can perfectly solve these two problems. It happened that in the secret library of Katodan's family, Muen had seen this ninjutsu in the information prepared by Tsunade for him. However, Muen felt that it could not be used directly. The Yin Seal is a self-cast ninjutsu. Muen felt that it was unlikely for Inuzuka Shida to learn to cast it himself. On the other hand, the Yin Seal cannot be used to seal spirits. To use it in the symbiosis of Prince and Inuzuka Shida, necessary modifications must be made. It seems that to solve the problem of the symbiosis of Prince and Shida, we must start by figuring out the principle of the Yin Seal. Muen thought to himself. The next day, when Muen went to Konoha Hospital to visit Inuzuka Shida, he unexpectedly met the Dean Tsunade. At this time, the diamond-shaped mark on Tsunade's forehead was particularly conspicuous in Muen's eyes. Master's wife, you have already practiced the Yin Seal? Muen asked curiously. Seeing that Tsunade had successfully practiced, Muen felt that his research would definitely be much faster. After all, there was a ready-made teacher. There is no way. If I don't make progress, I will be surpassed by you little brats. Tsunade said jokingly, this is not an ordinary Yin Seal. It has some different effects. Do you want to learn it? Master's wife, I just happened to be interested in this recently. I will inevitably trouble you when the time comes. Muen will not be polite. Okay, then I'll wait for you. Tsunade said generously. Afterwards, Muen said goodbye to Tsunade and went to Inuzuka Shida's ward. Some things about the secret techniques of the Inuzuka clan need to be understood clearly first. Chapter 64 Symbiosis. The members of the Inuzuka clan will be accompanied by a ninja dog from birth. This tradition is not only to cultivate the tacit understanding between humans and dogs, but also to enable the members to practice secret techniques as soon as they condense chakra. The ancestors of the Inuzuka clan discovered that chakra can carry the genetic information of the owner, and they had a bold idea to transform themselves with the ninja beast chakra to obtain some talents of the ninja beast. They thought so and did so. However, the effect was not very good. Most people could not bear the serious injuries or even death when they received the ninja beast chakra transformation. In Muen's opinion, it should be that the transformation was too intense and the genes collapsed. Even so, the ancestors of the Inuzuka clan did not give up, but changed their ideas according to the actual situation. They believed that, since the human body could not adapt to the ninja beast chakra in a short period of time, they would slow down the transformation speed and transform each other with the ninja beast. After generations of transformation, one day the Inuzuka clan will have the talents of the ninja beast. In Muen's opinion, the Inuzuka clan is considered a success. Now the members of the Inuzuka clan, even without the help of ninja dogs, will have a sense of smell, sensitivity and wild power far beyond ordinary people. This is the result of generations of Inuzuka people's persistence in practice. Once we, the Inuzuka clan, begin to condense chakra, we will exchange chakra with the accompanying ninja dog to adapt. The lower the degree of repulsion between the two, the smoother and more powerful the secret technique will be. Inuzuka Shida said somewhat sadly, so, the first ninja dog must be the most important to the Inuzuka clan. The Inuzuka clan members who lose their first ninja dog will also lose the opportunity to become the best ninja. The ancestors once said that when the chakra of a ninja in the Inuzuka clan is completely compatible with the chakra of his ninja dog, the secret technique of the Inuzuka clan will be perfected, and the realm of human dog unity will be truly realized. At that time, incredible things may happen. Inuzuka Shida continued with a longing look. So, when I saw the spirit of the prince appear in front of me, I was thinking that, if I'll let the prince coexist with me, would it be considered to have achieved the human dog unity that the ancestors talked about? Muen has absolute respect for the ancestors of the Inuzuka clan. This is a persistence like Hokage moving mountains, but it is also this persistence that allows the Inuzuka clan, which has mediocre talents, to survive and grow in the bloody and cruel ninja world. I need all the research data of the Inuzuka clan from ancient times to the present. Muen stared at Inuzuka Shida with shining eyes. Does it have anything to do with the current symbiosis research? Seeing Muen's eyes, Inuzuka Shida always felt that he was like a prey being targeted. Of course. Muen hesitated for a moment, rolled his eyes and said, "It must be nothing, bastard." Seeing Muen's expression, Inozuka Shida knew that it must have nothing to do with the research. But he also said helplessly, when I'm discharged from the hospital, I will find a way to get a copy for you. After coming out of the hospital, Muen went to the secret library of Katodan's family without stopping, found the relevant scrolls of Yin Seal, and began to study. For more than a year, Konoha has been patrolling intensively on the borderline, and has used thunderous means to attack ninjas from other countries that have been discovered. Perhaps the neighboring countries felt the will of Konoha and restrained their infiltration of Konoha, so the patrol mission on the border of Konoha gradually became less tense than before. Muen knew that this relative calm would not last for too long, so he took advantage of this period of calm to take a long vacation and study the method of symbiosis between Prince and Inozuka Shida. Half a year passed like this. In the past 6 months, Inozuka Shida spent all day looking for Muen and soaking in the family's database. He did not find a new ninja dog partner and became a famous waste of self-destruction and a negative example of the Inozuka family. On this day, in the basement of Muen's house, Inozuka Shida sat cross-legged, and the spirit prince squatted beside him and waited for battle. Muen made seals with both hands, then pressed his left hand on Inozuka Shida's forehead and his right hand on the head of the spirit prince, and the symbiosis technique was activated. I saw fine lines appearing all over Inozuka Shida's body, and the ends of the lines converged into a half-moon shaped mark on Inozuka Shida's forehead. The mark emitted a hazy aura and formed a ray of light in the air, which slowly connected to the top of the head of the spirit prince. When the light connected with the top of the spirit prince, the half-moon shaped mark on Inozuka Shida's forehead glowed brightly, and the spirit prince followed the light and entered the half-moon shaped mark. Then, the aura on the mark slowly dimmed, and with the disappearance of the light, the lines on Inozuka Shida's body also slowly faded, leaving only the half-moon shaped mark on his forehead. Seeing that the symbiosis technique was completed, Muen slowly breathed a sigh of relief. Then he stared at Inozuka Shida nervously, not daring to be careless. Although, in theory, this technique is feasible, after all, it has not been tested, and there is a possibility of any problems. Under Muen's nervous gaze, Inozuka Shida, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, slowly opened his eyes after a while. Muen found that at this time, Inozuka Shida's eyes were particularly pure and lively, as if he was full of curiosity about everything. Then, this curiosity slowly faded, and Inozuka Shida became his usual appearance. "How do you feel, Shida?" Muen asked nervously. "Very good. I can feel that the prince is on me, and we seem to be able to communicate," Inozuka Shida said excitedly. "Is that so?" Muen lowered his head and muttered to himself. Then, as if he had thought of something, he walked out of the basement excitedly and said, "Shida, wait for me for a while, I'll be there soon." Inozuka Shida sat cross-legged on the ground, without responding, but he always had a bad premonition in his heart. Sure enough, this premonition was immediately fulfilled. In a short while, Muen returned to the basement with his hands behind his back. He suddenly squatted in front of Inozuka Shida, held out a piece of meat bone with his right hand, and said, Oh, Prince, look here." Seeing this, Inozuka Shida's face changed drastically, and he was full of anger. Before he could say anything, he suddenly got on all fours and barked woof woof, with a look of joy on his face. Muen seemed to see the prince lying in front of him and wagging his tail. In an instant, he could no longer hold back and laughed out loud. At this time, Inozuka Shida stood up with a look of shame and anger on his face. While roaring Muen's name, he rushed up and fought with Muen. After a long time, the two of them lay on the ground in a rather embarrassed manner. "I told you not to share the 5 senses, but you didn't listen," Muen said, trying to suppress his smile. "Asshole, don't tease me like this again," Inozuka Shida said seriously. "If the prince has no 5 senses, can he still be considered alive? In that case, he is just a tool in my pursuit of power. I have something to do today, so this is the only chapter. Sorry, if you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 65 3 Forms. After Inosuke Shida got used to it a little, Muen suggested going to the training ground to try out what changes could be made to his strength in the symbiotic state. Inosuke Shida was also a little impatient and eager to try, so he readily agreed. At the Konoha training ground, Inosuke Shida stood in the middle of the field, and Muen watched from a distance. The first thing Inosuke Shida performed was Yatong Ya. Originally, it would have been impossible to succeed without the cooperation of the ninja beasts, but at this time Inosuke Shida performed it alone, and the power of the ninjutsu seemed quite good. However, when performing the next fusion transformation technique, there was a small problem. Inosuke Shida could not transform into the two-headed wolf at all. Hey, the two-headed wolf form originally changed from two heads, and now I only have one head. It seems that this is the only way. Inosuke Shida, who was in the form of a giant wolf, said dejectedly, "How stupid. Wouldn't it be solved by using shadow clone?" Muen said on the side, "Also, what's the difference between this one head and two heads?" "Of course there is a difference. Isn't the two-headed wolf more majestic?" Inosuke Shida immediately retorted, and then said excitedly, "You are still smart, Muen. I will learn shadow clone when I go back." Inosuke Shida adapted to the giant wolf state for a while, and after changing back to human form, he lowered his head and pondered for a while, and said uncertainly, "I seem to be able to do something incredible." Then, on all fours, his body slowly changed into a wolfhound. Muen on the side was also stunned by this change. Muen was sure that this was not a transformation from a ninjutsu, but a real physical change. "Are you the Prince or Shida now?" Muen looked at the wolfhound in front of him and asked with some confusion. "Woof woof." The wolfhound in front of him first ran around excitedly, then calmed down and spoke in human language. "Now it's Shida." After the wolfhound ran around again for a while, it changed again. The wolfhound stood up and slowly turned into a half-human half-beast form with a 3-meter tall wolf head and a human body. Seeing this scene, Muen felt that his three views were shattered at this moment, and he wondered if he was dreaming. Human form, beast form, human beast form, three forms are alive. Did I give this guy devil fruit? Muen thought a little speechlessly. "Muen, I think I'm invincible now." At this time, Inosuke Shida in the werewolf form shouted excitedly. Suddenly, he kicked his feet and leaped towards Muen. From Muen's perspective, although Inosuke Shida did not use the instant body technique, his speed was not much slower than the instant body technique. Muen had no time to dodge, so he had to cross his hands to block the punch. But the power of this punch was completely beyond Muen's expectations. If it weren't for more than a year of practice in the bone strengthening and bodybuilding technique, Muen might lose his combat effectiveness under one punch. Muen did not dare to be arrogant. While being knocked away, he hurriedly used the spiritual mist. This was the first time that Muen used the spiritual mist when he was not facing an enemy. It was seen that under the claws of the werewolf Inosuke Shida, it was common to penetrate stones and break wood. Muen could only dodge again and again under his continuous attack, and could not find any gaps for counterattack. Muen, who had experienced it personally, knew clearly that Inosuke Shida in the werewolf state had a qualitative improvement in strength, speed, and reaction. Even with the assistance of the spiritual mist, it was extremely difficult to win without other means. Just when Muen was thinking about whether to use other means to try the defense in the werewolf state, Inosuke Shida's movements showed a little bit of incoordination. Muen certainly would not miss this opportunity, and knocked him away with strange power. When Muen rushed to the place where Inosuke Shida was knocked away, he had already withdrawn from the werewolf state. He was lying in the pit in human form, but he didn't seem to be injured, which made Muen's eyebrows jump unconsciously. It seems that the defense is unexpectedly strong. Muen thought. "Muen, you are still the strongest. I'm no match for you." Inosuke Shida panted and said flatteringly, "Really? But someone just said that he was invincible. Did I hear it wrong?" Muen rolled up his sleeves and said in a cold tone, "Someone just tried to kill me. I'm wrong. Muen, I'm wrong. I was just too excited." Inosuke Shida stepped back and apologized and explained. Muen was just pretending. He didn't really want to beat Inosuke Shida up. He just asked calmly, "What happened just now? Why did the attack suddenly have a flaw?" Inosuke Shida didn't hide it and told Muen his feelings. On the one hand, it was the first time for Inuzuka Shida to use the human beast form, and the cooperation between him and the prince had not yet reached the best. On the other hand, his body seemed unable to withstand long-term changes and needed more adaptation and adjustment. The waste of the Inuzuka clan, the negative example of self-abandonment, can finally stand up now. Inuzuka Shida said loudly, while lying on the ground with his eyes looking at the sky above his head. Then how are you going to explain it to your clansmen? Seeing Inuzuka Shida's stunned expression, Muen said helplessly, you haven't thought about it yet, have you? I haven't thought about it yet. Inuzuka Shida said with difficulty. At this time, Muen took out a scroll from his side and threw it to Inuzuka Shida, saying, I knew it a long time ago. Inuzuka Shida took the scroll with a confused look on his face, wondering, what is this? Symbiosis scroll. Anyone in your Inuzuka clan can practice it on their own, but it is very difficult. Muen said lightly. How difficult is it? Inuzuka Shida asked. It's so difficult that you will never be able to learn it. Muen looked at Inuzuka Shida with contempt. At least in my opinion, the difficulty should not be less than the spiritualization technique, but it is indeed a secret technique that only the Inuzuka clan can practice. Muen did not lie. Except for the Inuzuka clan, ordinary people, if they do not have a special physique or strong vitality, even if they really practice according to the scroll and successfully coexist with a certain ninja beast, when using the power of the ninja beast, it will cause the body to collapse, seriously injured or even die. The Inuzuka clan can practice the symbiosis technique, mainly because of the fact that generations of clansmen have been persistently transforming genes with ninja dogs for thousands of years, which has reduced the conflicts between them. Just say that you have mastered this secret method under my guidance. Muen said, tell your clan leader that I will use this secret method in exchange for your clan's research data for thousands of years. Please recommend some. Please collect some. Thank you everyone. Chapter 66, Team Reunion. After parting with Inuzuka Shida, Muen felt a surge of emotions in his heart. When he saw that Inuzuka Shida's body had indeed turned into a wolfhound, a voice in Muen's heart rang unconsciously. What if the wolfhound only had the consciousness of the prince at this time? Does it mean that the prince has truly resurrected? The moment this thought came to mind, Muen felt a chill. This should really touch the realm of God. Of course, what Muen didn't know was that the Otsutsuki clan that would appear in this ninja world several years later would have this ability to reincarnate. In his previous life, Muen only read Shippuden in a daze, and his attitude towards Boruto was that on the one hand, he didn't have time, and on the other hand, he really had no interest in it. In any case, Muen did see the possibility of successful reincarnation from the symbiotic practice of Inuzuka Shida and the prince, which would be a topic worth studying for a long time. Let's not talk about Muen's thoughts on reincarnation here, but Inuzuka Shida caused an uproar in the Inuzuka clan at this time. After returning home, Inuzuka Shida excitedly called the whole family to the family training ground, ready to let the family share his joy together. Oh, Shida, have you finally decided to work hard? Seeing Inuzuka Shida bringing everyone to the training ground, Inuzuka Ji said with some relief, although it's a little late. Who told you that you are my son? I forgive you. Yi. Tomorrow I will take Shida to choose a new ninja dog. Inuzuka Yi on the side did not reply. She always felt that Inuzuka Shida suddenly dragged everyone to the training ground. There was an indescribable strange meaning. Unlike others, Inuzuka Yi has never thought that Inuzuka Shida would be a self-destructive person. As a mother, she thinks she still understands Inuzuka Shida. Although she doesn't know Inuzuka Shida's plan, she is more certain that Inuzuka Shida must have his own ideas. It seems that there are some results. Let's take a look first. Inuzuka Yi thought to himself. As Inuzuka Shida's elder brother, Inuzuka Jo just came back from a mission yesterday and followed him at this time. Inuzuka Shida walked into the arena and announced loudly, "Father, mother, brother, I'm back." After that, he used Yatong Yap, which shocked the three people. It was Inuzuka Jo who reacted first, and also used Yatong Ya to attack Inuzuka Shida, ready to test his quality. Inuzuka Shida was 1 against 2, and was not at a disadvantage. After the Yatong Ya state was lifted, the two did not stop, and various means emerged one after another, and it was difficult to tell the winner for a while. Then, Inozuka Shida directly used the werewolf form. With the qualitative improvement of strength, speed, agility, and defense, Inozuka Jaw immediately fell into a disadvantage and was defeated. If Inozuka Shida alone used Yatong, everyone was just shocked, but when the werewolf form appeared and defeated Inozuka Jaw, it was already a shock to the Inozuka couple. What is this? Inozuka thought he had experienced a lot, so he couldn't help but stutter. Father, take a look at this. Inozuka Shida returned to his adult form, threw the secret scroll to Inozuka, and said proudly, but with some embarrassment, I have mastered this secret technique. Inozuka immediately opened the scroll, and Inozuka Tsubasa also walked aside and stretched his head to look at the secret technique together. Inozuka Jaw was still in a daze. Obviously he had not recovered from the blow of being defeated by Inozuka Shida. After a long time, the Inozuka couple came back to their senses from studying the secret scroll. Although they have not yet fully understood it, they can still see the effect that this secret technique can achieve. In other words, the prince is not dead, and his spirit is still in your body. Inozuka said with emotion. That's right, when the prince was seriously injured and could not be healed, it was Muen who extracted the prince's apostrophe spirit and sealed it. When talking about this, Inozuka Shida is still a little sad. What conditions does Muen have? This secret technique won't be given to us directly. Inozuka tightly grasped the scroll and said seriously. He wants all the research data of our family's secret technique. Inozuka Shida said embarrassedly. Okay, I will negotiate with the clan on this matter. There should be no problem. Inozuka agreed without hesitation. Inozuka had already comforted his eldest son. He walked to Inozuka Shida, put his arm around his shoulders, and said in a low voice with a smile, Shida, did you really cultivate this secret technique yourself? Of course. I cultivated it myself. Inozuka Shida's face flushed instantly. Inozuka didn't say anything else. Anyway, it was her son who got the benefit, so it didn't matter what. When Muen was about to get home, he found Kurama Huan wandering at the door with his hands behind his back. At this time, Kurama Huan's face was still painted with oil paint, but she had long hair draped over her shoulders. The physical training did not make her limbs strong, but made her look more slender and brought a sense of heroism. Muen, you're back. Kurama Huan saw Muen and spoke first. Has Shida's problem been solved? Seeing Muen's surprised expression, Kurama Huan said without waiting for Muen to come back, my guess is that Shida comes to you every day, just like when you and I studied the secret arts together. Well, it's fixed. Shida has become a blessing in disguise and has become much stronger. Muen didn't care too much about his teammates guessing this and said with a smile, Humph. I've become a lot stronger too. You'll know when we perform a mission together next time. Kurama Huan raised his fist and said happily, then can our team do missions together again? During the time when Muen took leave to study the secret arts, Kurama Huan and Hinata Akizuki did not rest, but joined some understaffed teams to carry out missions together. After all, although the number of tasks in Konoha is not the highest now, it is still not small. Of course, my vacation is over. If I don't complete the mission, the Enbu will probably come to find me on the orders of the third Hokage. Muen said with a smile. I just don't know if Kyoyu has returned from the mission. I'm back too, Captain Muen. At this moment, Hinata Kyoyu's voice came from behind Muen. It turned out that Hinata Kyoyu had just returned from the mission and was about to ask the captain about returning to the team. Well, from now on, our Muen team will assemble again. Muen announced loudly. Please collect and recommend. Chapter 67. Battle against Nanao. Another year has passed quietly. Over the past year, there have been constant battles and missions around Konoha. In these battles, two people have repeatedly made military exploits and are famous in the ninja world. One is Minato Namikaze, who exerts his speed to the extreme on the battlefield and often saves people from danger. The other is Muen, who has strange ninjutsu and kills countless people. The two are collectively known as the Double Stars of Konoha. The people of Konoha are proud of it. This is the era of Double Stars shining. Of course, for the ninjas of the enemy country, they are the targets they want to get rid of as soon as possible. In the past month, the Tokigakure ninjas have repeatedly created incidents on the border, making the Konoha high level furious. However, due to the unique terrain of Tokigakure, surrounded by waterfalls, and the characteristics of being easy to defend and difficult to attack, a large-scale invasion is obviously not in the interests of Konoha. For this reason, Konoha issued a task that must warn Tokigakure, and the task situation is not limited. Muen's team accepted this task. With the strangeness of Muen's spiritual mist and the help of his and Kurama Huan's illusion, the 4 members of the team successfully sneaked into the rather hidden Tokigakure village and left a kunai engraved with the words Konoha in the room of the leader of Tokigakure village, and then floated away. This undoubtedly made the entire Tokigakure village furious, and the whole village began to frantically hunt down Muen's team. At this time, on the border between the Kingdom of Taki and the Kingdom of Grass, the 4 members of Muen's team had to deviate from the original retreat route and come here under the pursuit and interception of the Tokigakure ninja. All the way down, the Tokigakure ninja seemed to be deliberately driving us to the Kingdom of Grass. There seems to be a trick, Hinata Rakizuki said solemnly. The 15-year-old boy, with long hair, white eyes, and white robes, showed his demeanor at this moment. Should we change the route to break out? The 16-year-old Kurama Huan has long flowing hair and a tall figure. If it weren't for the oil paint on her face that lowered her appearance, she would definitely be a fairy level figure. No matter what traps there are, it shouldn't be a problem with our strength, not to mention that Muen is here. Inozuka Shida, who was full of wildness, said disapprovingly. At this time, Muen frowned and said nothing. The other 3 were no longer surprised. Since the beginning of this mission, Muen has shown this expression from time to time. Qiuu. As soon as Muen's serious voice came out, Hinata Qiuu immediately opened his white eyes and carefully observed the surroundings. Then he shook his head to Muen and said, "Captain Muen, I didn't find anything." Before Muen could say anything, he shook his head again and said, "There is nothing underground, at least not within my sight." Muen, what's the matter? You have been like this these days. Kurama Huan said with some concern. Nothing, I always felt like I was being watched from the beginning of this mission. Muen shook his head and continued, maybe I was wrong. Let's go, let's see what traps are waiting for us first. Muen stood up and took the lead to walk forward until they left the border of Tokigakure and entered the border of grass country. Muen and his 4 companions never encountered Tokigakure ninjas again, which made the 4 of them feel a little incredible. Judging from the entanglement with the Tokigakure ninjas during this period, this is not the true level of Tokigakure. It was not until a large number of ninjas appeared in Muen's sensing range and surrounded them that Muen realized the reason. It seems that Tokigakure has formed an alliance with Uiwagakure. No wonder they dare to go wild directly in the land of fire. Muen was a little emotional, looking at the joint ninja force of the 2 countries in front of him, which had more than 100 people, and said coldly, however, if you want to keep us, are these enough people? Then, Muen's team took the initiative to attack. Inozuka Shida directly transformed into a werewolf. At this time, he could control this form at will. There was almost no enemy under his claws. Hinata Rakizuki used the soft fist more and more handy, and the 3-meter range was the enemy's restricted area. He had trained the hardest in the past year or so. The rapid progress of Kurama Huan and Inozuka Shida had put a lot of pressure on him, but even so, he was not left behind and steadily caught up. Kurama Huan was the most powerful. His seemingly slender arms and long legs were often very explosive, and his weird illusions were hard to defend against. Seeing the performance of his teammates, Muen became more and more calm. He put most of his energy on dealing with the enemy's upcoming trump card. At this time, Muen sensed a trace of ominous breath coming from the sky. When the spiritual fog merged into the breath in the sky, Muen immediately sensed an extremely violent emotion rushing into his mind. Even though Muen's will was still firm, he was unable to bear it for a while, and had to interrupt his induction of this breath. This was the first time that Muen encountered the failure of the spiritual mist in battle. When this breath landed on the ground, what came into view was an old man in his 40s with a pair of wings on his back. Muen already knew who this was, the 7-tailed Jinchuriki of Tokigakure. In Muen's impression, the future 7-tailed Jinchuriki was a lively and cheerful girl, but he didn't expect that he was an uncle at this time. Without more emotion, Muen pulled out the short knife on his calf and rushed up to fight with this Jinchuriki. As time went on, the weak on the battlefield were eliminated, and the opponents in front of Inosuke Shida and the other two were getting fewer and stronger, but no one who was beyond their control appeared. This made Muen breathe a sigh of relief, and began to concentrate more on dealing with the enemy in front of him. The Jinchuriki in front of him seemed to be getting more and more irritable. Although he barely maintained his human form, the dark red chakra began to gather on the surface of his body, and seven tails began to appear behind him. Muen knew that he couldn't drag it out any longer, and had to fight quickly. He was at the side of the Jinchuriki in an instant, and the sword light on the short sword in his hand burst directly, and cut through the tail beast's coat, cutting off a chakra tail. Unexpectedly, the tail that fell, turned into chakra again, and returned to the Jinchuriki. Then the Jinchuriki became even crazier, and the seven tails attacked Muen frantically. For a while, Muen had to dodge. Seeing that the attack was fruitless, the Jinchuriki flew into the sky, condensed chakra in his mouth, and a tail beast jade seemed to fall from the sky. Seeing this scene, the ninjas who were still entangled with Inosuke Shida and the other two fled to the periphery frantically in an instant. This was a destruction that did not distinguish between enemies and friends. At this moment, Muen quickly formed a seal, and countless sword lights flew up around him to form a dragon emitting dazzling white light, flew into the sky, and entangled the half-tailed beast Jinchuriki. Then thousands of sword lights burst out, and even with the strength of the tailed beast coat, it was instantly pierced into a sieve. The tailed beast ball had not yet been fired in its mouth, but it had already dissipated under the sword light. Chapter 68 Capturing White Zetsu. Over the past year, Muen has made great progress. His bone strengthening technique and spirit containing technique have been cultivated to the limit, which indicates that Muen's body and mind have become strong to a certain limit. More importantly, the sword escape chakra nature change can finally be mastered directly without the dagger in his hand. In other words, Muen has cultivated the bloodline limit of sword escape. If Muen reproduces now, a new bloodline family will appear in the ninja world. The Seven Tails Jinchuriki has fallen to Muen's sword escape sword dragon breaking the sky with blood all over his body. Let's go. This person is not something we can deal with. Someone broke the silence, and then the Iwagakure and Takigakure ninjas who were still surrounding them quickly left. Let's go. Muen suddenly looked serious at this time, calling his teammates to leave quickly. What's going on, Muen? Inosuke Shida said puzzledly, while following Muen quickly. That's the legendary Jinchuriki. If he can be brought back to Konoha, it will be a great achievement. Has that feeling appeared again? Hinata Rakizuki said calmly. But isn't that an illusion? Kurama Huan continued. Muen, have you been too tired recently? Once or twice it may be an illusion, but if it happens many times, it is definitely not an illusion. Muen said seriously. We or I have been watched. This is absolutely correct. Just now when the Seven Tails Jinchuriki fell from the sky, I was relieved, thinking that the feeling of being watched in the previous times came from the sky. But after defeating the Seven Tails, this feeling appeared again, which is too unusual. Muen said solemnly, although the Seven Tails is very important, and I'm also very interested, but now is a time when powerful enemies are looking around. It is not appropriate to be too ostentatious. It is more important to save your life now. Muen was indeed very sorry. He just cut off a tail of the chakra coat in order to get some tail beast chakra to study, but he failed in the end. Now the Jinchuriki is right in front of him, and he has to give up, because of the enemy, who is secretly watching. But who is it? Even Kyoryu's Byakugan can't be detected. Kurama Huan still asked in confusion. There are so many ninjutsu and secret techniques in this world, how can the Byakugan know all the mysteries? Hinata Rakizuki was open-minded. Just like underground, the Byakugan also needs to concentrate to see through a little, and the distance is limited. In this way, the four of them moved quickly towards Konoha. Half a day later, the feeling of being monitored disappeared from Muen's perception. To prevent accidents, the four members of the team rushed forward again for an hour, before daring to stop and practice for a while. If the villagers knew that we were scared by an unknown enemy and ran for most of the day, wouldn't they find it incredible? Inosuke Shida smiled heartlessly at this time. We are being cautious. The mission has been completed. Of course, our lives are more important now. Kurama Huan said as a matter of course. Muen closed his eyes and rested, but his vigilance did not decrease. Muen was thinking about how to catch the enemy. He didn't think he could get rid of the enemy so easily, nor did he think the enemy would give up so easily. He should catch up again soon. Sure enough, less than half an hour after resting, the feeling of being monitored appeared again. Since he was already in the territory of the Land of Fire, Muen didn't mind playing with this hidden enemy. You've been resting for so long. Why are you still so tired? Muen didn't say anything, but said, you three should be on guard. I'll take a rest. Then, regardless of the reactions of the three people, he went to sleep directly. Okay, Muen, you take a rest, and I'll take care of the guards. Inosuke Shida said seriously without any doubt. Hinata Rakizuki and Kurama Huan looked at each other, although they were a little confused, but out of trust in Muen, they didn't say much. Muen lay on the ground, and shortened his sensing range to 10 meters. Within this range, Muen was absolutely sure that he could see every detail. After 2/4 of an hour, Muen really sensed the extremely subtle chakra fluctuations entering his 10-meter range. Perhaps because he saw that Muen didn't react, the enemy was also approaching Muen little by little until he was about 5 meters away and didn't go any further. At this time, Muen knew that waiting any longer would not have any effect, so he decisively gathered strange power in his right hand and struck the ground. As the ground broke, 2 white figures appeared at the subtle chakra fluctuations under the ground. The moment he saw the 2 figures, Muen was shocked, but his reaction was not slow at all, and he grabbed the 2 white figures in his hands in an instant. Shishin, the seal scroll, Muen said with a trembling voice. This is White Zetsu, and there must be a huge secret hidden in his body. Shishin also reacted quickly, and the seal scroll was immediately opened, and he cooperated with Muen to seal the 2 White Zetsu separately. Muen, what is this? Is it a person? Kurama Huan asked in surprise, but I have never seen a person like this before. Everyone, I need to ask you something. Muen took a deep breath, and did not answer Kurama Huan's words. Instead, he said solemnly, I hope everyone will keep the matter of these 2 people absolutely confidential, and never let anyone know. Don't worry, Muen. Kurama Huan was not dissatisfied with Muen's failure to answer him. After seeing Muen's expression, he answered immediately. The same for us. Hinata Rakizuki and Inosuke Shida looked at each other, and said at the same time. Although they knew that there must be a huge connection between them, out of trust in Muen, the 3 of them agreed without hesitation. Muen looked at everyone with some gratitude, and then promised, thank you everyone. I promise everyone that I will tell you everything when the time is right. Let's go back to Konoha immediately. Although he didn't know why White Zetsu would target him, or why Uchiha Madara behind White Zetsu would target him, returning to Konoha immediately at this time was undoubtedly the most correct choice. Then, the 4 of them went straight to Konoha without stopping. Along the way, Muen couldn't calm down for a long time. Sometimes he felt that his current strength was still okay, but he shouldn't be targeted by Uchiha Madara so early. Sometimes he felt that Uchiha Madara was just an old man with limited mobility and dying, and there was nothing to be afraid of. The other 3 members of the team also noticed that something was wrong with Muen, and they all knew that it must be related to the 2 white figures, but they kept it in their hearts. Since they had chosen to believe in Muen, they just pretended that nothing had happened. Please collect and recommend. Thank you. Chapter 69. Joint Counseling. After returning to the village, Muen, who had regained his peace of mind, was thinking about the next plan. From the incident of being monitored by White Zetsu, Muen was sure that Uchiha Madara, who was hiding in the dark, was definitely keeping an eye on every move of Konoha and even the entire ninja world. Uchiha Madara was definitely not a good person, and there must be some unknown sinister plans for collecting intelligence. At this time, Uchiha Madara was found and solved, and then Nagato Samsara of the Rain Country was destroyed. In this way, Black Zetsu's plan to unseal Kaguya Otsutsuki would fail. This is definitely the best solution to save the ninja world at this stage. However, these 2 things cannot be done with Muen's current strength and status. Although Uchiha Madara seems to be just an old man who is about to die, his combat wisdom plus the power of the Outer Path demon statue are not something Muen can resist. Jiraiya is also there in the Rain Country. Even if Muen really managed to destroy the Samsurai by chance, even Tsunade and Katodan would not forgive him at that time. It is not what Muen wants, to become the public enemy of Konoha. Then at this stage, all Muen can do is to conduct chakra research step by step and improve his own strength. In this way, Muen has a preliminary plan for the use of the 2 white Zetsu. Muen gathered his mood and came to Konoha Hospital without stopping. "Muen, have you finished the mission?" Hiruna saw Muen rushing over and said happily, "Kyan Tang will definitely be happy when he knows. It's Aunt Hiruna. Please tell Kyan Tang not to be lazy. I will go to him to check his homework in 2 days." Muen, who was hurrying on his way with his head down, also saw Hiruna and said quickly, "Aunt, is Dean Tsunade here?" In the office, Hiruna seemed very happy to see Muen, and then she did not forget to remind him, "Take a good rest after the mission, you know? Konoha will not perish without you. Don't worry, Aunt. I won't force myself." Muen said a little embarrassedly. Although he also wanted to rest, the sense of urgency in his heart made him dare not slack off at all. Muen couldn't do what Hiruna said. After Muen said goodbye to Hiruna, he came to the office and met Tsunade. Without too much politeness, he said straight to the point, "Master's wife, we found some extraordinary things during this mission. You and Master need to study them together." Seeing that Muen looked a little serious, Tsunade stopped the work in her hands and said, "Is it so urgent? The sooner the better." Muen nodded, and then said, "It's best to go to Master's house now. Master's house should be safer." Seeing that Muen was so cautious, Tsunade also nodded solemnly and said, "Okay, I'll arrange the hospital affairs, and go home immediately. You look for Duan first." Muen nodded, left the hospital, and went to Konoha Ninja School. Half an hour later, Muen, Tsunade, and Kato Duan gathered in the secret room of Kato Duan's house. Muen took out the scroll, and the moment the seal was lifted, a white figure appeared in the secret room. Before Beizetsu could react, Muen grabbed him and controlled him in his hand. This guy can blend into the soil and trees at will, and his breath is almost non-existent. It took me a lot of effort to catch 2 of them. Muen explained casually. "Is this thing a human?" Katodan said in confusion. "It shouldn't be completely considered." Muen hesitated and said, "It's between a human and a plant." Combining the memories from the comics in his previous life with what he saw with his own eyes now, Muen already has a very clear understanding of White Zetsu. This thing is the product that appeared when Uchiha Madara used the energy of the Outer Path Demon statue to cultivate Hashirama cells. It is basically composed of 2 parts, one is Hashirama cells, the other is the people who were absorbed by the sacred tree in prehistoric times. In essence, these people are already part of the sacred tree, just like a branch on the tree. So White Zetsu has both human attributes and plant attributes. And because the branches that form each White Zetsu at this time are different, each White Zetsu has its own characteristics, such as the whirlpool-faced Tefei with a funny and cheerful personality. Of course, the 100,000 strong White Zetsu in the later decisive battle, after the transformation of Yamato, lost its diversity and became more similar. Of course, Muen did not explain these to Tsunade and Katodan in detail, nor did he explain the source of the information clearly, so he could only simply say what he could say. "This is impossible. How could you know so much?" Although Muen did not say everything clearly, what he said had shocked White Zetsu. "This thing can also talk?" Tsunade asked in confusion. "Not only can it talk, Master's wife, look at this." After saying that, Muen took out a kunai and cut a hole on White Zetsu's body, and then injected his own chakra into White Zetsu's body, and the wound on his body healed quickly. "He can absorb my chakra and has a strong self-healing ability. I remember that these are the characteristics of Hashirama-sama, and he may have cells of Hashirama-sama in his body," Muen said calmly. "This is not a real doubt, but a real affirmation." "What?" As the granddaughter of Senju Hashirama, Tsunade was particularly shocked at this time. Tsunade immediately took some tissues from White Zetsu and turned away angrily. She had her own way to verify the truth of this matter. Katodan looked at Tsunade with some concern and hurriedly followed. Muen shook his head and did not follow. Instead, he said to White Zetsu, "What do you think? Your intelligence cannot be concealed, and your conspiracy is doomed to fail. How about we cooperate?" As long as we cooperate, maybe we can help you gain freedom and become a truly independent life. Although he knew that it was impossible to persuade White Zetsu to rebel, Nguyen couldn't help but try. Don't waste your energy. I can't and will never betray. White Zetsu showed disdain on his face, and he never spoke again after saying this. Not long after, Tsunade and Katodan came together. It can be seen that Katodan's expression was unprecedentedly solemn at this time, and Tsunade's face was full of murderous intent. It was obvious that her anger value was about to be suppressed. Anyone who knew that his grandfather was treated so badly after his death would not feel very good. Nguyen, these guys really have traces of my grandfather's cells. Tsunade said coldly, I must find out which bastards did it, and I will never let them off. Who else has seen these things? Katodan was obviously calmer. And my 3 teammates. Nguyen said quickly, but when I saw that something was wrong, I asked them to keep it secret. Based on my understanding of them, they will not leak it. Very good, you did the right thing. It is not appropriate to publicize it now and alert the enemy. Katodan's voice was also a little chilling. Let's start with Konoha. Those who are unscrupulous will always pay a price. Please give me some recommendations. Thank you everyone. Chapter 70 Organ Transplantation. Katodan's logic of wanting to investigate from within Konoha first was correct. If he hadn't known the result in advance, Nguyen would have thought that all this was led by a certain force within Konoha, because from the known information, Konoha was the most likely to conduct research on Hashirama cells. People within Konoha are indeed more advantageous. And looking at the appearance of White Zetsu in front of him, it is obvious that the research has produced important results, which cannot be produced in a day or two. But at this time, Nguyen couldn't tell Katodan that his investigation was in the wrong direction, and that it was Uchiha Madara who was behind it. After all, someone has to believe it. At this time, in the hearts of Konoha people, the first generation Hokage, Senju Hashirama, is a godlike existence, and it is an ironclad fact that Uchiha Madara has died in the hands of Senju Hashirama. Nguyen, how are you going to deal with this thing? Tsunade's anger has been barely suppressed. Master's wife, although it is a pity that someone disrespects Lord Hashirama, the appearance of this thing may be a good thing for us. Nguyen said calmly, looking at Katodan. Hearing what Nguyen said, Tsunade also reacted instantly, and her excitement suppressed the anger in her heart in an instant and said, is this guy's structure the same as that of a human? Same. It is absolutely possible to perform an organ transplant. Nguyen said seriously. Even ordinary people have rejection reactions when undergoing organ transplants, and they also need to be checked for matching, not to mention ninjas. Due to the influence of chakra, ninjas have more stringent requirements for organ transplants. The vitality of the transplanted organ cannot be too weak, otherwise it will quickly die under the conflict of chakra. It cannot be too strong, otherwise it will easily become dominant, and easily lead to uncontrollable things. The most obvious example is the future Danzo. He transplanted a right arm cultivated with Hashirama cells, but it is obvious that he cannot fully control this right arm, so he has to introduce a third party's power, the Sharingan of the Uchiha family, so as to barely achieve a 3-party balance. If White Zetsu was cultivated from the original Hashirama cells alone, Nguyen would not recommend Katodan to undergo an organ transplant. But White Zetsu is the product of the combination of the two, and its erosion ability is definitely not as strong as that of pure Hashirama cells. In addition, the spiritualization technique can buffer the chakra conflict, so the success rate of this organ transplant will be extremely high. What do you two mean? Katodan was a little confused, but he understood what they meant. Are you asking me to undergo an organ transplant? Teacher, this is the best way to solve your problem. Nguyen said, there is no organ more suitable for you than this. I don't agree. Katodan was determined. If I use this thing, how can I have the confidence to investigate this matter? Before Nguyen had time to persuade him, Tsunade on the side had made a decision. Let's do it. Arrange the operation immediately. Tsunade looked at Katodan and said, Duan, listen to me this time. Since the incident has already happened, why can't we turn a bad thing into a good thing? Moreover, I believe that my grandfather will agree. More importantly, investigating this matter also requires strength. Nguyen looked at Katodan and nodded frantically. Under the gaze of Tsunade and Muen, Katodan hesitated for a long time and finally agreed to this matter. Tsunade is a man who takes things as they come. If she says she will arrange the surgery right away, she will arrange it right away. It just so happens that the two best doctors in Konoha are here now, so no other help is needed. She didn't go to the hospital, and the surgery was done at home to keep it secret. The whole operation went smoothly, and she only had to wait for Katodan to wake up before further observation. However, judging from the professional level of Moon and Tsunade, they both felt that the operation should be very successful. Watching Muen sealing up the white Zetsu whose two kidneys had been removed again, Tsunade asked, "Can this thing still survive?" "Probably not. His body is already extremely unstable. If it hadn't been treated in time during the operation, it might have turned into a tree by now." Tsunade thought Muen was joking and asked with a smile, "Then what are you going to do with it?" "I'm going to dismember it. This body can save many people." Muen looked at Tsunade and said, "But I need your consent, Master's wife." Tsunade instantly understood what Muen meant and said, "No problem, but the people you save must be trustworthy, and the affairs of our grandfather must not be leaked." "Don't worry, Master's wife," Muen assured quickly, and then said, "Master's wife, I have another one here. I want to keep it for research. You can do it yourself." Tsunade still trusted Muen very much. Then, he thought of something and said, "What about you, Moon? Your eyes can also be replaced." Hearing Tsunade's question, Moon touched his left eye and said with a smile, "Now, this eye has little effect on me. I still want to keep it as an incentive for my chakra research. I believe that one day I can solve this problem with chakra research. The main reason is that I'm afraid that I will be slack after the eye replacement." Tsunade shook her head and said nothing more. Not long after, Katodan woke up. Tsunade hurriedly walked to the bedside and said, "How do you feel, Dan?" "It is indeed a very vital kidney. I can feel that the surgical joint has healed." Katodan closed his eyes and felt it carefully and said, "The erosion of chakra is indeed very serious, but it is not a problem. It is estimated that the body will adapt to each other in no more than 3 months." Hearing this, Moon couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It seems that using White Zetsu's organs to save people is still feasible. Muen, when rescuing people, you should pay more attention to the later care. Grandfather's cells are too strong, and most people probably can't resist the erosion of chakra. Tsunade said seriously, "Don't worry, Master's wife. I will take care of him throughout the whole process," Muen hastily assured. When Muen walked out of Katodan's house, it was already evening. At this time, deep underground in the distant mountain cemetery, Uchiha Madara had a withered face and a dead look. Behind him, branches like tree roots stretched out to connect to a huge monster, which was the Outer Path Demon statue. He was relying on the Outer Path Demon statue to survive. Madara, 2 white Zetsu who went out to collect intelligence have not returned. A black shadow said, "Oh, where did they go to collect intelligence?" Madara's old voice still echoed powerfully in the underground space. He disappeared when he was monitoring a young ninja named Moon who was in charge of monitoring Konoha. "Really? It seems that after Hashirama's death, interesting ninjas appeared in Konoha again," Madara said with regret. "If I were still young, I really want to go out and meet the young people of today. Please collect and recommend. Thank you." Chapter 71 A Hero Saves a Beauty. When Muen returned home excitedly and prepared to formulate a research plan for White Zetsu for the next period of time, several cloud-hidden ninjas entered Konoha with ease. The barrier outside the village and the daily patrols of the Anbu were useless to them. They had a clear purpose and sneaked into Uzumaki Kushina's home. Uzumaki Kushina had experienced the hardships of displacement since she was a child, so she cherished the stable life after coming to Konoha. She was eager to integrate into Konoha and wanted to take the wood industry as her home. She tried her best to do everything well and was afraid of being abandoned. She wanted to be a Konoha person rather than a foreigner. Therefore, she hated her red hair very much because this red hair showed her identity as a foreigner all the time. For Uzumaki Kushina, this day was another unsatisfactory day. The village once again rejected her request to go out on a mission. It has been nearly 2 years since graduation. Other ninjas who graduated in the same year have been able to perform missions for a long time, but she is an exception. The young Uzumaki Kushina naively believed that all this was caused by her identity as an outsider and the lack of trust in the village, which made her extremely sad. Uzumaki Kushina returned home to rest as usual, but at this time she inexplicably felt that her home today seemed to be quieter than usual, even a little scary, which made her very uneasy. Sure enough, this uneasiness was immediately fulfilled. Several adult ninjas who came from nowhere rushed towards her, and it was obvious that they had bad intentions. Help, help, who will save me? Uzumaki Kushina was very scared, staggering to avoid being caught, while shouting for help. But all this was in vain. The huge gap in strength made her caught quickly, and no one heard her cry to save her. In this way, Uzumaki Kushina was kidnapped out of the village by the cloud-hidden ninja. When Uzumaki Kushina was kidnapped for almost half an hour, the Enbu ninja who was responsible for monitoring her found something wrong. After a check, it was found that Uzumaki Kushina had disappeared without a trace under his nose. The Enbu ninja was shocked and did not dare to delay for a moment. He rushed to the Hokage's office and reported the situation. What? Are you sure she disappeared suddenly? The third Hokage looked at the Enbu ninja who was kneeling on one knee in front of him and said seriously. He would rather believe that the Enbu in front of him was negligent, because if not, it means that there is a big problem with Konoha's defense, and there may be a big traitor. Hokage, I can be sure. The Enbu ninja seemed to understand some of the third Hokage's concerns and said seriously. Order all the Enbu who can be contacted to put down all work and find Uzumaki Kushina, and bring her back safely. The third Hokage no longer hesitated. Whether it was a traitor or other situations, the fact that Konoha's intelligence was leaked was a fact. At this time, finding Uzumaki Kushina was the most important thing. Please ask Shimura Danzo, Utatane Koharu, and Mito Kadoen to come to see me. The third Hokage sent another order. Regardless of whether Uzumaki Kushina can be found or not, the village's defense must be replanned. Yes. The Enbu ninja left in an instant and passed on the task. Long before the Enbu ninja discovered that Uzumaki Kushina was missing, Namake's Minato had already discovered that something was wrong. Namake's Minato had been paying attention to the red-haired girl for a long time. He knew that she had no friends in the village, and he basically knew when and where he could see her. Therefore, Namake's Minato had already started the task of finding Uzumaki Kushina before everyone else. As expected, he found a clue, which was the unique red hair. Namake's Minato was excited and immediately followed the clue. Uzumaki Kushina moved forward mechanically under the coercion of the Kumogakure ninja. She pulled off a few hairs from time to time, hoping that someone would find her. But as time went by, her heart was close to despair, and her body and spirit had reached the limit. At this moment, Namake's Minato had already caught up with her by following the hair. With Minato's current strength, it was no problem to deal with a few unknown people. He solved the opponent in a few seconds with just a few instants. Even Uzumaki Kushina, who was walking forward mechanically, didn't notice it. You're not hurt, are you? Minato stood in front of Kushina, looking at Kushina who was still walking forward mechanically, and said gently. Kushina looked up when she heard the voice, opened her confused eyes, and saw a familiar figure. For a moment, she thought it was an illusion. I'm here to save you. At this time, Minato's gentle voice came again, which made Kushina sure that it was not an illusion. Someone really came to save her. A smile from the heart appeared on the corner of her mouth. Then her mind relaxed, and she fell to the ground unconsciously. Seeing this, Minato hurriedly stepped forward to help Kushina up. Seeing the usually strong girl in such a state at this time, Minato felt distressed and hurriedly said, "It's okay now." In an instant, Minato didn't know where he got the courage from, and regardless of Kushina's shyness, he picked up the girl in his arms and jumped up, forming a beautiful picture under the reflection of the full moon. Kushina, who was in Minato's arms, came back to her senses and saw the strands of red hair in Minato's hand. She asked in confusion, "What is this?" "Because it's beautiful hair, I noticed it right away." Minato didn't wait for Kushina to finish and explained. Upon hearing this, Kushina obviously didn't believe it. She turned her head away from him and said softly, "You obviously never wanted to help me." Whenever Uzumaki Kushina was bullied, she would find that he was by her side, but didn't help her. In fact, what Kushina didn't know was that only when she was in conflict with others and was bullied, Minato would miss his tracks because he was worried about her. Because I understand, you are very strong, Minato explained hurriedly, both mentally and physically. However, this time it is a dispute between villages, which is different from the fights between children. Minato stopped on a big tree, looked at Kushina gently, and said seriously and firmly, "So, I don't want to lose you." These sudden words made Kushina's cheeks blush in an instant, and she asked in confusion, "Even if I'm an outsider? Why do you say that?" Minato smiled and said, "Because you live in Konoha village, you are also one of us, right?" This moment of tenderness finally calmed Kushina's long-standing uneasy heart. She was extremely sure that the Minato in front of her was her root in Konoha. Collected and recommended. Book friends. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 72 Minato's Request. Shortly after Minato rescued Kushina, a white Zetsu emerged from the mud and said to himself, "The plan has failed. We must report the situation to Madara-sama immediately." At this time, in the Konoha meeting room, the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, Utatane Koharu, Mito Kadoen, and Shimura Danzo gathered together, all with extremely solemn expressions. "Hiruzen, are you sure that the little Uzumaki girl didn't run away by herself?" Utatane Koharu said in a cold voice. "Whether they ran away on their own, or were abducted by the enemy, the fact that the entire Konoha village was not aware of it shows that the village's defense has been thoroughly understood." Sarutobi Hiruzen took a puff of cigarette and said, "Everyone here is the person I trust the most. I can only ask you to find out, how did the information leak? Is there an insider or some other reason? Since such important information as the village's defense deployment has been leaked, what about the village's other information?" Sarutobi Hiruzen continued with a headache. "It seems that many things need to be redeployed. These also need to be entrusted to you. Yes, leave it to us." Hiruzen, Utatane Koharu and Mito Kadoen looked at each other and said solemnly. When the day dawned, Minato and Kushina had returned to the village. In the dark, the Enbu ninja who was always monitoring the movement at the gate was shocked. Uzumaki Kushina, who had been looking for a whole night but couldn't find her, just came back like this. "You report to the Hokage quickly, and I will continue to follow and monitor them," a fox-faced mask said. "Yes." After saying that, another cat-faced masked man hurriedly left in an instant. The fox-faced Enbu ninja followed the two all the way to the door of Kushina's house. Minato knew that Kushina was extremely tired both physically and mentally, and said with concern, "You should have a good rest first. Don't think too much. I'll take care of everything, and I will report everything to the third generation master." Kushina didn't say much. She was indeed very tired, and she went back to the house every few steps. After watching Kushina enter the house with a smile, Minato turned around and said to the Anbu, "Senior of the Anbu, please take care of Kushina. I will go to report the situation to the Hokage now. Don't worry, Minato. Kushina's safety is in my hands, and I will not let her encounter danger again." The voice of the Anbu ninja came from the dark. "In this case, thank you, Senior." After saying that, Minato instantly rushed to the Hokage. When Minato rushed to the Hokage's office, he found that not only the third Hokage was there, but also Koharu Utatane, Mizuto Kadoen, and Shimura Danzo were also there, as if they were waiting for him. Then, Minato quickly reported the situation to the four people. "Was it really kidnapped by Kumoga-Cure Ninja?" Koharu Utatane asked with some surprise and anger. From the land of lightning to Konoha, they crossed several lines of defense of Konoha, which shows that Konoha's intelligence has been leaked. If it is a war now, it will have extremely serious consequences. It is definitely Kumoga-Cure Ninja, whether it is a forehead protector or their root, it all proves this point. Hiruzen, if this is true, then the matter may be more serious than we thought. Mizuto Kadoen also frowned and said, But, since Kumogakure already knows so much of our intelligence, why did they expose it, just for a little girl? The third Hokage asked in confusion. When it comes to war, can't they launch a fatal attack on Konoha? The third Hokage's question was not answered by the few people present. Although Uzumaki Kushina is very important, it is obviously not enough for Kumogakure to activate such important intelligence. Well, since the situation has deteriorated to such a state, let's start the action according to the discussion tonight. The third Hokage knew that, if some things could not be figured out, there was no point in thinking about them anymore. Now, the most important thing is to solve the hidden dangers in front of us. Then, Utane Koharu, Mitakado En, and Shimura Danzo all left, leaving only Namake's Minato alone. Is there anything else, Minato? The third Hokage has always wanted to train Namake's Minato, who has learned the second generation's ninjutsu. This time, Minato has made such a great contribution, which makes the third Hokage feel even more gratified. Hokage-sama, I want to take Kushina with me on future missions. After hesitating for a while, Namake's Minato still said firmly. Seeing Minato's expression, the third Hokage took a puff of cigarette and then seemed to think of something, laughed and said, is that so? It seems that Minato has grown up. Then, the third Hokage said seriously, you should know that Uzumaki Kushina is not an ordinary ninja to the village. She is very important to the village. I know, from the fact that Kumogakure came all the way to kidnap Kushina, the importance of Kushina is obvious. Although I don't know what's special about Kushina and what's her significance to the village, I know that Kushina will be an excellent ninja, and I will definitely protect her. Minato still fought for it seriously. Minato knew how important it was for Kushina to go out of the village, to carry out the mission. It meant that the village recognized her, and he wanted to help her anyway. Looking at the determined Minato, the third Hokage thought for a long time and said seriously, then Kushina's safety will be in your hands, Minato. Hearing what the third Hokage said, Minato didn't know that the third Hokage had agreed. Thank you, third Hokage. I will ensure Kushina's safety no matter what, Minato said excitedly. Then, he said goodbye to the third Hokage and left. Looking at the departing Minato Namake's, the third Hokage murmured to himself, the first Hokage in Mito-sama, Minato and Kushina, is this God's will? At the same time, deep underground in the distant mountain cemetery, Uchiha Madara listened to the report of White Zetsu, wondering what he was thinking. Madara, it seems that the young people of Konoha are very powerful. One appeared yesterday, and another one appeared today. Black Zetsu said on the side, the Cloud Village is really a waste. Even with such detailed information, it can't succeed. Since they are called the Konoha Twin Stars, they are naturally not bad. Madara said indifferently, but the strength of the ninja world now seems to be a little too strong, which is very unfavorable for the implementation of the Moon Eye plan. It seems that it's time to find a way to weaken the strength of each village. Madara murmured to himself. Then he fell into deep thought, not knowing what to plan. 2 days later, Cloud Village, where the Raikage was. Has it failed? The third Raikage looked at the Anbu ninja in front of him and said, it seems that this information about Konoha that came from nowhere is indeed not true. It may be that Konoha deliberately released it. Yes, Lord Raikage. The Anbu ninja also echoed. Fortunately, we did not fall for it. We only sent a small team to test it, and the loss was not great. Humph. This account will be repaid by Konoha sooner or later. I actually got 9 monthly tickets today. I'm a little flattered. Sincerely thank you all. Chapter 73 Treatment Selection. When a ninja is injured and loses his strength, it means losing his status in the village or family. The psychological gap caused by this change of identity is not something that ordinary people can bear. Most people will be depressed for a long time before they can slowly accept the reality. Some people with fragile hearts may even ask for death. Only a very small number of people can maintain an optimistic attitude and face life positively in adversity. Muen is looking for this very small number of people. Because Muen always believes that only those who help themselves are qualified to wait for miracles. 4 years ago, after being discharged from the Konoha hospital, Naoki Akimichi did not live in the family gathering place for long. He couldn't stand the pity or regretful eyes of the tribe members, so he chose to move out and live alone. This is also the choice of most ninjas after they are injured. Of course, after moving away from the family gathering place, Naoki Akimichi did not become decadent, but faced life more actively. When Muen found him, he was carrying the prey home. That's right, Naoki Akimichi made a living by hunting after he stopped being a ninja. After all, the physical fitness of ninjas is still much stronger than that of ordinary people. Haha. Little Muen, you're back from the mission. How come you have time to come and see me today? After seeing Muen, Naoki Akimichi said excitedly, you're just in time. Look at the black bear I just hunted. Don't leave later, let's eat bear paws together. He didn't let Muen refuse and directly pulled Muen into his home. At this time, Naoki Akimichi was still as burly as ever. The difference from 4 years ago was that the fat on his body had turned into tendon meat. This was not the style of the Akimichi family at all. Half a year ago, Muen came to visit Naoki Akimichi once and expressed doubts about his tendon meat. At that time, he said that the secret technique of the Akimichi family could grow both tendon meat and fat meat, and there was not much difference, but growing fat meat was much easier and faster than exercising a body of muscles. Of course, ninjas chose a fast and effective way, so the Akimichi family ate themselves into big fat men. After all, for the Akimichi family, weight is power. I can't be a ninja now. I have nothing to do, so I'll work out the fat. After all, I don't like the appearance of a fat man. That's what Naoki Akimichi said at the time. Muen stopped Naoki Akimichi from being busy and said directly, Senior Naoki, if there is a chance to become a ninja again, are you willing to give it a try? This question made Naoki Akimichi stunned for a long time. Muen, you really asked a good question. Naoki Akimichi exhaled and said, have you thought of any way to solve the problem of my left arm? Without waiting for Muen to answer, Naoki Akimichi said affirmatively, if there is a chance, I will definitely be willing. Hearing this answer, Muen was not surprised at all, and then said, that's good senior, just come to me in the evening. Senior, please keep it a secret. Then Muen left without waiting for Naoki Akimichi to stay, and he had to find another person. When Muen found the handsome Minato Hideko, he was busy in a small shop with a beautiful woman on crutches. He was very happy to see Muen, and quickly put down his work, and came to greet him. But when facing the questions raised by Muen later, unlike Akimichi Naoki, Ito Hideko seemed a little hesitant. The moment he saw where his eyes were, Muen understood the reason for his hesitation. Senior Hideko doesn't need to agree to me now. You can think about it for a while. If you still have ideas in this regard, come to my house to find me in the evening. Muen gave Ito Hideko enough time to think, and then left. Not long after Muen left, the beautiful woman in the store saw Ito Hideko, who was distracted, walked to his side and said, Hideko, you will always be a hero in my heart. I don't want to stop you because of me. You know everything? Ito Hideko said in surprise. The beautiful woman shook her head and smiled and said, I don't know, but seeing you so hesitant, I have some guesses. You can do whatever you want boldly, and you don't need to worry about me and the children. Hey, it just makes you worry about me again. Ito Hideko shook his head and said with a wry smile. He really couldn't give up this opportunity. He had never stopped dreaming about this in the past few years, and now the dream has come true. Akimichi Naoki and Ito Hideko are the two candidates that Muen found. Others either didn't know much, or were too decadent, and didn't meet Muen's requirements. After meeting Ito Hideko, Muen saw that it was still early, so he decided to take a stroll. It didn't matter if he took a stroll, but he discovered something big. Minato Namikaze was walking on the street with Uzumaki Kushina, and Uzumaki Kushina had her hands behind her back and looked shy. Seeing this, Muen couldn't help but think, what's going on? Did I miss something big? Then he thought that Minato's heroic rescue should have happened shortly after Uzumaki Kushina graduated. Now it's almost 2 years since Kushina graduated, so it's not strange that it happened during this period. Minato, Kushina, hello. Muen caught up with the two of them in a few steps and greeted them with a little excitement. Although he knew it was a matter of time, Muen was still very happy to see Minato finally take this step. At this time, it was Uzumaki Kushina who reacted first. Her shyness in front of Namake's Minato instantly turned into a look of disgust, and she said with a bad look, "Muen, what are you doing here? What do you want?" Then, Namake's Minato greeted Muen with a little embarrassment. Muen also looked at Uzumaki Kushina and Namake's Minato helplessly, and said with emotion, "It seems that only you, Minato, can subdue Konoha's blood red pepper." Then Muen put his arm around Minato's shoulders, and whispered in his ear, "Okay, it's finally done. When did it happen?" At this time, Minato, whose face was flushed, had not answered yet. Muen only felt a huge force on his buttocks, and he was kicked 3 meters away. Uzumaki Kushina put her hands on her hips, and said with fire in her eyes, "You are not allowed to bully Minato, bastard." Muen rubbed his butt and stood up, looking at Minato, and said, "Minato, you don't care about your Kushina. She kicked me like this, and you didn't react." Hearing what Muen said, the fire in Kushina's eyes seemed to burst out again. Seeing this, Muen hurriedly stepped back again to keep a distance, and said with a smile, "Kushina, don't be so angry. Minato, remember to treat me to dinner next time. I'm leaving first, bye." Muen didn't mean to be a light bulb all the time, just say hello. Please recommend and support. Thank you everyone. Chapter 74 Inner Ambition. After Moon left, Uzumaki Kushina's anger slowly subsided under Minato's persuasion. "Kushina, why are you so angry at Moon?" Minato said in a rather strange way. In Minato's opinion, Kushina was kind-hearted, and her slightly hot temper was just a protective color for her long-term inner anxiety. There was no reason for her to be so easily angry at Moon. "I don't know either. I couldn't help but get angry when I saw him teasing you and bullying you," Kushina said. Haha. Minato was happy in his heart and said, "Moon is a very good person. He just likes to joke occasionally. He has no ill intentions. You will know it after you get to know him more." "Is that so?" Uzumaki Kushina looked puzzled. "I thought this guy was here to laugh at the two of us." It was late at night, and Akimichi Naoki and Ito Hidego came to Moon's house as scheduled. "Two seniors, this operation is still risky. Have you decided?" Moon said seriously. "The strength of the two is naturally not comparable to Katodan, and there is still a certain risk when dealing with the erosion of the first generation cells in the white Zetsu. Don't worry, Muen. We are ready." The two looked at each other and said in unison. Then, the two followed Muen to the basement. In the basement of Muen's house, the equipment for surgery is complete. After the two lay down, Muen took out the white Zetsu without both kidneys, and the operation began. The next morning, Naoki Akimichi and Hideo Ito, who were in a coma, had woken up from the hospital bed. Muen, who was standing by, hurriedly asked the two about their feelings. "I don't feel anything else, but this hand is a little smaller." Naoki Akimichi moved his left hand and asked in confusion, "As your body adapts to this arm, the size of your arm will change," Muen explained. At this time, Hideo Ito tried to move his right foot, closed his eyes and sensed it, and said, "My right foot seems to be eroding my body. The chakra is very active, and it is not easy to control." Muen frowned when he heard this. Then, the spiritual mist entered the joint of the operation, forming a bridge for the mutual transformation between Ito Hidego's body chakra and the right foot chakra. "How do you feel now?" Muen asked again. After carefully experiencing it for a while, Ito Hidego said puzzledly, "It's really magical. It's no longer a big deal." Muen, where did this arm come from? Akimichi Naoki looked at his left arm and asked with some confusion. "This is what I will tell the two seniors next." Muen looked serious and said solemnly, "The organs used for surgery contain cells of the first generation of Hokage." "What?" Before Muen finished speaking, Akimichi Naoki was shocked and said, "Muen, this kind of thing is not a joke." Ito Hidego on the side also frowned and said nothing. "Don't worry, Senior Naoki, I'm not researching the cells of the first generation. I got these by chance, and I've already reported this to Lady Tsunade." Muen calmly dispelled the doubts in the hearts of the two, and then said, "I hope the seniors will keep the source of the organs absolutely confidential, and don't let people notice any clues. As long as we are in the village, the sudden recovery of the body will definitely arouse suspicion. After all, it is not easy to find suitable transplant organs, not to mention two at a time." Ito Hidego frowned and thought, either we hide our identities from now on, or leave Konoha during this period of time. As long as people don't notice that your new organs have cells from the first generation, other suspicions don't matter. Therefore, you don't need to hide your identities, and there is no need to leave Konoha. All you need is an identity that will not be attacked or coerced by others. I'm afraid you will have to live with masks for a while. Muen told the two of them the next arrangements. After your bodies and new organs adapt to each other, you will work in the Anbu. This matter will be recommended to the third generation by Tsunade-sama and Kato Dan-sama, and it shouldn't be a big problem. It depends on whether you are willing. If you don't want to go to the Anbu, we will think of another way. Akimichi Naoki and Ito Hidego looked at each other and said, of course we are willing. The Anbu is a team directly under the Hokage, and not everyone can enter. For the two of them, it was the best arrangement. But this will be at least half a year later. Seeing that the two agreed to this plan, Muen smiled and said, starting tonight, the two seniors will enter the Konoha hospital for follow-up observation and treatment. Remember, the two seniors will undergo the surgery in the Konoha hospital. Muen, the title of senior ends today. Akimichi Naoki said seriously, with your current reputation and status, it is not appropriate to call us seniors. In addition, we are already indebted to you for being able to become ninjas again. How dare we to call ourselves seniors? That's right, Muen. Ito Hidego on the side also said, no matter what happens in the future, as long as it is not a betrayal of Konoha or the Hokage, the two of us will stick together through life and death. There is no need to stick together through life and death. After all, who can predict what will happen in the future? Muen smiled slightly and said, if there is any accident in the future, we can support each other, or you can help me. I will be very grateful. Muen has no idea about how big a force to build. Force is indeed a very important part in the Naruto world. After all, the third Hokage was so powerful, but he died under siege. But when the power surpasses the Kage level and reaches another level, the so-called power becomes a joke. In the past, Muen did not dare to dream of reaching such strength. However, since becoming a ninja, he has successively improved and cultivated the secret techniques of spiritualization technique, spiritualization mist, spiritual illusion mist, bone strengthening technique, spirit containment technique and so on, and cultivated the sword escape bloodline limit. Muen's strength has undergone earth-shaking changes in just 4 years. This unconsciously made Muen have a little ambition in his heart. If he continues to study chakra and various ninjutsu in depth, he may be able to stand at the top one day in the future. When the two heard what Muen said, the last bit of defense in their hearts relaxed. They also understood that Muen really had no intention of repaying a favor. As for the mutual support in possible accidents or changes in the future, this is what should be meant. I don't feel anything when writing today. Chapter 75, Morning Things. In the Hokage's office, Muen was invited by the Enbu ninja early in the morning. Looking at the young ninja in front of him, the third Hokage was filled with emotion and relief, and felt lucky for the future of Konoha. Muen, your team has completed the mission of Taki country very well this time. The third Hokage's expression gradually changed from a smile to a solemn one, and he said, the information brought back is also very important. I didn't expect that Taki country would actually form an alliance with the land of Earth. The environment around Konoha is getting worse and worse. Third Hokage, does the village have another mission to assign to us? Muen ignored the third Hokage's emotion, and asked with some doubts. Having just finished 2 operations in the evening, Muen was also confused when he was invited to the Hokage's office early in the morning. That's not the case. I just want to talk to you. Why, you don't want to talk to an old man like me? The third Hokage shook his head and said jokingly. That's not the case. Third Hokage, you must be joking. Muen would not believe the words of the man in front of him. He was not even 50 years old, but he called himself an old man. It was obvious that he was pretending to be pitiful. He must have something to ask for. It is said that the strength of the other 3 members of your team is growing very fast. The third Hokage said with some emotion, look, there will be another group of children graduating from the school in a while. As you know, Konoha is now on the border and is seriously short of manpower. How about letting the other 3 members of your team become independent team leaders? It can also help the village relieve the shortage of manpower. Third Hokage, you are joking. This kind of thing is not a matter of your words. We will resolutely carry out your and the village's orders. Muen replied seriously. Haha. You are all the future of Konoha. Asking for your opinions first will not create a gap between you and the village. The third Hokage laughed at first, and then said a little sadly, hey, being a Hokage is not that easy. You have to coordinate the overall situation, and not let you have any opinions. It's difficult. Third Hokage, I will seriously ask for their opinions. If it was the third Hokage's order, then Muen and others were definitely executed without hesitation. But if it is a solicitation of opinions like this, Muen thinks it is better to give the right to choose to the team members. Hey, the three of them are still Chunin now. Although I also know that they all have the strength of Jonin. If they can't prove that they have the ability to truly stand on their own, they can never become Jonin with just strength. The third Hokage stared at Muen and said seriously, I hope they can become the pillars of Konoha in the future. Muen also understood the meaning of the third Hokage's words and knew that he was telling the truth. I believe that the three of them will definitely become the pillars of the village in the future. Muen responded to the third Hokage's words seriously. This was also a promise to the third Hokage that he would do his best to persuade the three teammates. After all, this was their chance to become a Jonin. Well, that's good. The third Hokage smiled with relief. Then, Muen said goodbye to the third Hokage and left. Not long after Muen left, Mito Kadoen and Utane Koharu came together. Hiruzen, I heard that you have decided to let the little girl of the Uzumaki family go out on a mission? Utane Koharu asked first with a questioning tone. Hiruzen, this is too dangerous. We don't know how long Mito-sama can hold on. Konoha cannot lose her now, otherwise the consequences will be too serious. Mito Kadoen also expressed his opposition. Calm down, both of you. I have my own considerations. The third Hokage lit the pipe in his mouth, took a puff of smoke, and continued. We need Uzumaki Kushina to become the new container, to seal the Nine Tails after Mito-sama, so she must have a sense of belonging to the village. Mito-sama's sense of belonging comes from Hashirama-sama, so where will Kushina's sense of belonging to the village come from? Where does it come from? Mito Kadoen saw that the third Hokage did not continue and asked hurriedly. Haha. Kushina's sense of belonging comes from Jiraiya's disciple, Namake's Minato. The third Hokage laughed and said, besides, it was Minato's request to let Kushina go out of the village to carry out the mission. How could I not agree? Are you sure? Since she is Jiraiya's disciple, Namake's Minato is naturally trustworthy. But what is Minato's strength? Although he is one of the Konoha twin stars, will he have the strength to protect the Nine Tails in the future? Utane Koharu questioned. No problem, trust my judgment. Minato is very strong. He will become the pillar of Konoha in the future. The third Hokage said confidently. Moreover, when Kushina leaves the village to perform a mission, Minato will personally protect her. Even so, it's still too dangerous. Utane Koharu was still a little worried, but her tone was obviously loosened a lot. Don't worry, if there is any problem, I will take full responsibility. Hearing what the third Hokage said, Utane Koharu and Mito Kadoen did not insist anymore, and agreed to this matter. Just when the three were discussing whether Uzumaki Kushina could leave the village to perform a mission, Tsunade came to the ancestral house and met Uzumaki Mito. Compared with when Tsunade got married, Uzumaki Mito at this time was obviously much older, especially his mental state was no longer the same. Grandmother. Seeing Uzumaki Mito like this, Tsunade felt reluctant, but still said that Senju Hashirama might be studied by others. After hearing what Tsunade said, Uzumaki Mito touched the place where the Nine Tails was sealed on her lower abdomen and said, they are really anxious. Does grandmother know something? Tsunade said with some doubt. Hey, my time is running out. They are afraid that the Nine Tails will riot after I leave. Uzumaki Mito said calmly, the only things that can suppress the Nine Tails are the wood release and the Sharingan. But some people in the village lack trust in the Uchiha, so they are eager to create wood release ninjas. I think this is why they are studying Hashirama cells. They all deserve to die. Tsunade was filled with anger and gritted her teeth. What are you going to do? Hearing Tsunede's angry words, Uzumaki Mito asked, I will definitely find out everything and make someone pay the price they deserve. Tsunade suppressed her anger and said calmly, then do it. Don't let them go too far. The Senju clan has done enough for Konoha. Even if Hashirama and Tobirama don't care, it's time for their descendants to show some anger. It's most appropriate for you, the princess, to do this. Uzumaki Mito expressed his support for Tsunade. Please give me some recommendations. Thank you, fellow book lovers. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.